up until that point right there, I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to hit it because I blew my ACL probably 5 years before that at the downtown Orlando Street Jam when they closed the main street.
We'll talk about this too.
Yeah. And BT won that, and I lost my knee in that. But I'm from Canada, and I don't have money, and I don't have health insurance, and I just was like, oh, well, and I just kept riding.
I approve waterboarding. They're talking about wakeboarding. The thing about wakeboarding, every trick is an invert.
Backside.
Air railing.
A new dimension.
All right, we are back. Another episode of the Grab Matters podcast. Today, we welcome on a very special guest, Ryan Doyle. How's it going? What are you doing here? You're Canadian. What are you doing here in Florida?
I came to talk to you.
And I'm very happy that you're here to do so. You went riding today, though. So let's talk a little bit about that before we dive into a bunch of other shit.
Yeah, I flew in and then late and crashed BT's place. And then we kind of got up and he was saying, George is going to be at the cable today. Let's go meet up with George and ride. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. And
George Daniels, for those who don't know.
Headed over to OW, which is just, I don't know, even just driving down those old roads, there was a lot of like, holy crap, like this is cool.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time and it's such an iconic spot. And got there and there were some like vintage dudes there shredding on the wakeboard, killing it. And
who, you remember any names of the wakeboard dudes that were there? Because I know TJ was there on the wakeskate side of things.
Yeah. We ran into TJ, which was great because that was like another skater, and then it was like we were kind of a crew of
taking
four.
over a little bit.
Yeah. And we got into like all throwing down, and then BT started filming, and then we were all just doing tricks in front of BT trying to get our stuff down. It was super cool. It was just such great energy. It's like the energy you want when you ride. It is just feeding off of each other and making you want to get that next thing. And then the second you get it, it's like, well, what next now? What's my next trick now?
Yeah.
And it was just such a great environment to ride in and like right off the plane and get that like done and out of the way. I felt like the whole trip right there was like,
well, you got kickflip, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
It took me a bit, but I can't settle down. I can't relax until I get a kickflip. And then once I stick a kickflip, then it's like, okay, let's have fun now.
Yeah.
And usually everything else just clacks along pretty easily. The kickflip is always still a little bit of work, and I'm starting to think that maybe it's because of the
okay, we will get into the whole board situation
it's pretty big.
In a little bit. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about with product and all that shit with gear wise. But we do start off every show with favorite grab. So, what's your favorite grab? It's a little different for wake skaters, obviously, but
I'm not being a boat rider. I didn't do a lot of grabs, but when I found myself filming for Transgression, and I was going to be doing a full part. I knew I needed the variety, and I'm in a film with Randall Harris. Like, you have to represent. I have to put some solid grabs together. So I was running through my roster of how I'm going to do this, and it ended up being nose grab for me. Nose grab frontside 180s, wake to wake, was the trick that I decided I was going to put in as my wake trick, and then it ended up as a shot in my 10-page interview in SBC, and it's like one of my favorite shots because it's like my only like boat shot that I have.
Yeah.
But it's like a solid, white knuckle grab.
it's a good one though.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like. I don't know. It just kind of comes around when I was watching Transgression. I was like, yeah, it's just satisfying, I guess maybe.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of thinking of offering the question to you of like what, in your opinion, at what point does a grab matter?
So people have asked me, does the grab matter? I don't think the grab actually matters that much.
I think but at what point, like, when you're going for it, at what point in the process of going for the grab does it matter? Like, because some people will be like, I'm going to go do a 9, and it's like the fingers brush the board.
No.
Yeah.
No, you've got to, like, Alex Albach was a guy I had on German wakeboarder, and he's like, you got to have enough fingers that you would smoke a cig with. So, like, 3 finger contact minimum. And I think it's got to be a full clench, you know?
Yeah.
You've got to everything's got to wrap around. You have to grab it and hopefully pull it a little bit,
I agree.
ideally.
Oh, yeah. A little bit of
movement,
tweakage,
and then you can move on. So, you know, especially on the wakeboard side of things is probably what you're alluding to. You know, get some 1080 grabs, some 900 grabs.
I like if your knuckles go white, then you've got it.
That's I like that.
If you've got it there.
Yeah, because then you know you're actually
there's
applying force.
Pressure in the grab. Then,
yeah. All right, I like that. So before this podcast, you came in and you were like, you said basically to the words of, if there was a guy who was forgettable in wake skating, I'm that guy. What do you mean by that? It's a good way to start this off.
Well, I don't think that I was not super accomplished in the tournament side of things. And we filmed a lot, and I had a ton of magazines. We were in the magazines all the time. Yeah. And if I had any my biggest accolade would maybe be that we were so involved in the magazines, and I used to do trick tips and so many sequences, and I used to love, that was my favorite thing about mags, is opening and seeing the sequence of a trip and walking through the pictures and seeing them. But I mean, if you ask them, and a person today about this mag and that mag, they're not, mags aren't a part of modern day modern day industry.
Media,
so it's that's an easily forgettable genre of our industry or our outlet of that we used to be really into. It's gone. And then I had a handful of video parts, but even those are probably pretty easy to overlook because I was amongst giants. I was always surrounded by giants all the time. So it's easy to miss the little guy that was there. Because I was in the company of such incredible athletes and such incredible people that.
But I mean, I get what you're saying, but your roots run incredibly deep. Your resume, I think, is stacked. You know, I mean, we got a pair of shoes here, we got a board here, we got cover shots that I'm looking at. It's not a shortage of quantity, you know. And I think the best way to kick this off. I think we're going to start with the LF'n Hot Seat, and it's going to dive right into a cover shot that we have here that I'm very, very, very excited to talk about. And this is not an understatement. I'm not selling this. I'm fucking super excited. So thank you to Luca Force for making wakeboarding, wake skating fun. We're going to dive into the LF'n Hot Seat, courtesy of Tom Fouché. He's going to ask this one.
Hunter, Ryan. Another banger pod, I can tell, on the way. Ryan, I just want to say, man, super fired up and stoked to see you still out wake skating on your own pool gap, and even more so that you got your kids into it, man. So way to pass the handle on, and gladly stoked to be able to do the LF'n Hot Seat on the week of Pass the Handle. So keep on keeping on, man. But with that being said, I got two questions for you. The first being that since you were at the forefront of riding park and it was able to translate from riding out at the projects and living out there, you were also a winch rider too. And there was one particular winch spot that was insane, and that was you hitting that massive down rail. Why is there no footage of that? We need to see it, man. I brag about it all the time. A second one, and if this hasn't already come up into discussion yet, could you discuss and talk about what made you decide to transition on from wake skating? And we'd love to hear what you're getting into now outside of wake. Hope all is well, guys, and super fired up to hear this pod.
Good two-parter there. So the first one, I know I hyped it up before this. What we're referring to is the cover of Alliance 2009, the Rider of the Year issue. And I think I'm just going to toss it to you because obviously Tom's question, where's the video footage? We have the video footage. You have the video footage.
Yeah, always. We've always had it.
but nobody's seen it.
No.
That I am aware of.
It was filmed by a guy named Dan Hughes, and his company at the time was called Red Button Productions, and he's moved on to other things now. But he was filming for a project that he was putting out because he'd done a few Canadian wake films, like Equals Pink, what I think was his last great one. And Nick Harless and I actually shared a section in that, and that was super fun. I think I filmed my section in one day because I was just at home.
Yeah.
For Wakestock, and we went to like the lake and then to a little rail park, and what I got was the section, and so his project just didn't go, and then the footage never went anywhere. And I remember, because I know him, I went and I was like, Dan, like, do you have that footage? Because I just wanted it for my computer and just to like see. And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And he gave it to me. And I was like, dude, if you don't do anything with this in 5 years, I'm releasing it to the world. Right? But then like 5 years went by and it just didn't seem like I had really any reason, or maybe, I don't know. It just didn't seem like there was any reason to.
Yeah.
So I just kind of always just sat on it, which seems ridiculous to sit on footage. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so the footage exists.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the screen here. If you end up wanting to transfer it to me.
Yeah. And yeah.
Let's just go through everything about this.
Okay.
Where it would just start from the beginning.
Okay. Well, I met Nick Harlos, because Wakestock went to Wasaga Beach, and I met all the Wasaga Beach boys there. And they're just great. It's like a beach town, so it's that type of person, right? Like everyone's cool, everyone's nice, everyone is bro, and everyone's down to like, get after it. Whether that it is like the nightlife or shredding. And Nick was one of those guys that was like, he had a really strong snowboard background. He lived out west for a long time, and he very, very versed on rails. Like he was a solid rail rider, and he'd actually done this rail on a snowboard before. So he's hit this rail before on his snowboard.
Oh, you're even opening up a whole nother door of things.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So this is why it was like, for me, it was like, this is a spot, and this is a spot he'd been dreaming about doing on his wake skate. And he built a backyard rail setup that went from his lawn and landed in the Wasaga Beach River, which was where Wakestock was held. He was, and that was just pulled with a Sea-Doo. So he was the guy to do that, and he knew that he could. He just needed to like get all the material together, put it together, and go for it. So when I moved home after I retired and decided to move home, Nick was the guy that I would drive to ride with. He lived on Ore Lake. It was about 40 minutes from me, and I would drive there, and he would always, cover gas because I'm paying to drive there. And he was great. It was a great riding partner. I probably arguably did some of the best water riding in those years, filming for this, Red Button Productions video that never came out. And him too. Like he all his best stuff was there too. And he has a lot more than just this stunt footage buried.
Yeah.
Even like frontside bigger spins, inside out, which I never even seen him do. I wasn't pulling him when he stuck that, but I've seen the shot, and it's all like a sunset shot. Such a sick shot. I think it was switch too. Switch inside out on the ski frontside bigger spin, which was cool. But anyway, so we went there and looked at it, and I think in my head I was like, because I was done. I wasn't. I think I was like, I was not thinking like I'm doing anything for anyone anymore. Like I had other stuff that I was starting that was going to be more like about what the next part of my life was going to be. But this was for him. He wanted to cover so bad. And I had already had 2 covers. And so I was like, well, we're going to shoot you vertical and we'll shoot me horizontal. So then I'll get a spread and you get the cover. So that was our whole plan. And we went and we bought angle iron because we were just going to pound them into the ground. And then we ripped plywood into 12-inch ripped pieces. And we just leaned them up against the side of the angle iron and then put vapor barrier in and started filling it with water so that the water weight pushed the plywood against the pounded in angle iron and held the walls. Because it's only, 10 inches of water, 10, 12 inches of water. It's not a lot of water weight, so it's not going to bow the sides out. And it was enough to make it happen. And then we did this little janky pallet. We had these pallet skids from the job sites that he had. We laid them out, and that was like our slide start. We're just sliding on like, stacked skids into this little thing. And then because the landing is actually the lake, it's not It's not a pond or small body of water. It's a massive body of water, and it's rocks everywhere. It was all rocks. And the water didn't start right at the rail. It was like 3 feet of land after the rail.
You can kind of see it in the photo, but not quite. Yeah.
And then the water starts, and it doesn't start deep. It starts
like a shoreline,
an inch, and then 2 inches, and then 3 inches. You'll see it in the footage how shallow it is on our misses, especially my misses, because I was finding boulders and then by hitting them and then throwing them out of my way, and then you can still see them in the other shots. But basically, we went out and we found this really big rock, and it was like maybe a few feet below the surface of the water. So we stacked skids on this rock until it came above the surface of the water, and then we pounded in rebar into the edges of the pallets to hold them kind of on there, and then we tie wrap cinch wrapped the winch to the skid pallets. So the driver had to stand kind of straddling the winch on these skids. And,
in the lake.
Yeah, in the lake, and then drive. And we didn't know if, like, when you were going to pull, if it was just going to pull our skids off the rock into the water. Like, we didn't know how it was all going to go. It actually worked really well. And we didn't have to worry about anything. The start pool worked well. The pallet skid island that we made for the winch, it worked really well. Everything actually, it looks super janky, but it was really solid. And Nick went first, obviously, because it was his thing, and he'd hit this rail before, so he was like comfortable. And if you look at his misses, like, you can tell how comfortable he was. Like, even his misses were so close to makes.
Yeah.
And I think he maybe missed I think he dropped the handle. He went up to the rail and dropped the handle maybe 3 or 4 times, or 2 or 3 times, I don't know. And then went for it. And every one he went for, he went right to water, right to board, right on water. And they were just a little bit laid back. And then it was like, and then bang, the one he stuck was just like perfect. It was like, you couldn't make it better. And I stayed right on the gas, and I shot him straight.
Oh, you have to.
Straight to me, and brought the handle right into the winch and shot him almost kind of past me. And he's just all nonchalant, like, he's like, I'm pretty tired. You want to have a go for a bit? I was just like, dude. I was like, and what am I gonna do? I'm gonna tie you, because like, that was perfect. It was perfect. He stuck it so clean. So then I was just like, and I didn't even 100% know that I was gonna hit it.
I mean, how many stairs is this? Because for the listeners, we didn't really explain it. There would be videos and photos on the screen, but it's a down bar.
Yeah, so
I can count real quick.
It's about 32 foot rail. It's long, but 13 stairs, I think, is what it was altogether.
Yeah,
but
like
they were
12 or 13.
And this is a really big point for me, and maybe I want to stress this out about other things later on. But like, in wake, like, we can't hit regular rails. We can't hit a regular set of stairs. It's too steep. We go at least 20 miles an hour. Yeah. So everything has to be long and mellow. Or it's not fun. Or you're holding on for dear life.
Won't look good.
And you can't do your best shit on it.
Yeah.
So it's like long and mellow. It has to be, because that's why at the projects, like, the Performance A-frame was over 100 feet long. The Relentless rail is over 100 feet long.
We're going 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's got to be long.
It's the only way everything looks nice, and you have time to style it out and make it all look good. If it's short and steep, then it's quick and janky, and it doesn't look good. So this particular setup, I know, even though, like, this cover, from the angle it's shot at, it looks steep. It looks like a regular set of stairs, but they were long. They were a regular step, but then twice as long.
Ah, okay.
And it was a pretty good, not super mellow, but mellow enough that it was still a comfortable slide. It wasn't like straight down. So we didn't have to go slow or anything like that. We could go regular speed. And it's deceiving in the cover shot, because it looks, and that's shooting kind of straight on like that gives you that.
To make it look like a normal staircase with the rail,
So, and we did it all that day. Like, this was a true winch poach mission. It was not like we had approval, we were allowed to be there. There was none of that stuff. We showed up, we planned out all the material, we planned out everything we need. We brought it all that morning at sun up, and we started pounding spikes and building rickety islands. And we had got it and both stuck it and were gone by lunchtime. And God had the pictures. We had Elijah Boss was the photographer, a Canadian guy. He's great. He shot my wedding. Great dude. He shot the pictures. That's why the pictures are so friggin' good.
It's an insane photo.
And Dan did the footage. He filmed, which you'll see here finally now. But we had two guys that were great to capture it all, and then us to build it all, because Nick's a really good builder as well. So that's probably why everything was like, it worked out. We came up with the idea, and then it worked out really well. And so a few tries in, and then bang, he stuck it, and then he passed the handle all nonchalantly to me. And up until that point right there, I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to hit it, because I blew my ACL probably 5 years before that at the downtown Orlando Street Jam, when they closed the main street.
We'll talk about this too.
Yeah. And BT won that, and I lost my knee in that. But I'm from Canada, and I don't have money, and I don't have health insurance, and I just was like, oh well, and I just kept riding, and I rode the entirety of my career. Like, I didn't even have a pro model. I was waiting on my pro model. I think I was riding Grubby's board there at that street jam. I was wearing BT's helmet, riding Grubby's board, because I'd left campus, and some things happened with butterboards, and then I was signing with Gator, and I was waiting on a board. And that's kind of when that street jam happened, and I was in between boards, but I was interested in riding compression and concave, because concave was like the new thing.
Yeah.
So I was bouncing between, I think back at the projects, I was riding Byerly's shapes, the 05 with the purple and green skeleton king on the bottom. I rode that board until my pro model showed up. But so I had a blown knee. So this is why, and I was getting it fixed, because Harlow's dad is a doctor, and he went to medical school with like one of the main guys at the Canadian Knee Institute. And the lineup for knee surgery was like crazy long, years even. And his dad called his old buddy, snuck me in like under the door, got me in. Like I had to, and I was like, it was like a couple weeks after this, like I was booked to start to get surgery and do this. And that was all in my head, like, but I was like, what am I gonna do? Like blow my knee more, so
she's gone.
Yeah. So I was like, and so it was right when he stuck it and came up that I was like, fucking hell yeah. Like, I'm going to do this right now.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, up until that point, I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to hit it.
Okay. So you go up there. I was going to say you strap in,
Yeah.
but you don't. You grab the handle and you.
And I'm not a handle dropper. So I'm just like white knuckled coming off, and I just send it out first go. And like right into like just a car crash, which is how I usually do most of my things. I need like 10 or 12 car crashes, and then I can start to wrap my head around what's happening. Because I'm not like a naturally talented rider. I know you guys talk about this before, whether or not there are people that are naturally talented or people that have to work for it or whatever. And I think I can testify to the fact that I am not a naturally talented rider. I have to work very hard and usually take, a fair amount of beatings to get to a place where I can start to see a make. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Like, I always knew that, and I was always more than willing to invest those beatings, to get that feeling of the make, because the feeling of the make is just like, I know it's undescribable. Especially the harder the thing is.
I mean, something like this is top tier.
Yeah. So, and you'll see, you get to see the reactions in the video is I think I hugged myself at one point. I was like so stoked. The feeling felt like, it was like, I was just like basking in like oh my gosh. So I just go up there, I send it out, boom, I crash out, and my knee, like, I think it wasn't the first one, but I think it was maybe the second one. My knee does the slip out thing, where it feels like someone hits you with a sledgehammer. Anyone that's had a knee injury knows that when your knee slips out, it's like it's this weird, like someone hit you with a hammer pain, but then it because it just goes right back in. It's like dislocating something and then putting it back in, and it's like, oh, it feels like my finger. It feels like good, but it still got dislocated. But it's back in its joint. So my knee slipped. I wouldn't say it dislocated or anything. It just slipped, and it felt like that hammer pain. And then I was like feeling the pain, but then it was like fading away, and I'm like juiced on adrenaline, obviously. So at the same time, I'm like, my body's giving me, everything I need to do this. And the knee slip is just a minor inconvenience. And I'm back up the stairs in a handful of minutes. And then the next couple, I'm trying to be dainty with the landing because now it's in my head.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like set it down soft, and that's just leading to no bueno. That's not how
you got to attack it.
Yeah. So I remember I was just like thought after I was like, that was it. Like I had a perfect one. I was like, that was it. And it was me trying to like absorb. You can't absorb the landing. You have to just own the landing. And I said it to Nick. I was like, I'm just stomping this shit down. I don't care if my leg breaks and I don't care if my leg falls into 3 pieces. I'm not going to dainty this one. I'm going to just own this landing no matter what the consequence. And I just went up and because I had it locked in at that point, and I just hit it, and that was what was in my head. Like, I'm not gonna bend. The water's gonna bend. I'm not gonna bend.
Yeah.
And boom, I hit, and you still watch it. I still bend a lot in the land, but in my head, I was like a statue, and boom, rode away like just as clean as Nick's, and we both got like a really epically clean sensation. And
well, he's
awesome.
Regular, right? And
he's
you're
regular.
Goofy.
So he was on the ones
both sides of the rail.
Yeah. So both of those rails experienced a wake skater.
Experienced a wake skater.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I had to bring that up because I brought this up so many times, and this cover has sat. It's the 2009 Rider of the Year edition, which is also a story in of itself. Which Chris O'Shea won 2009 Rider of the Year, I believe. Yeah. But he didn't get the cover. The cover is
yes, and this is a kind of a 2-tiered thing for me as well, because if you look at Nick in this cover and what he's showing as sponsors on that board, it's electric sunglasses, and like he's promoting companies that don't pay, they don't advertise in that magazine.
This is Alliance Wakeboard cover.
So
for those who are wondering.
To get a cover of a magazine is super rare, and there's only like 12 a year. So they want to give the covers to the companies who are paying to be in their magazines. They want Nautique riders. They want, Billabong riders, O'Neill riders. That's who they want on their covers, because now they're making their sponsors happy. And, that's business. That's good business. And there's more than enough of those riders. There's tons of those riders, to choose from. So to be like a kind of a relatively no-named guy, not that Nick was completely as no-name as I was back when I got the cover.
Yeah, but he's not one of the big dog names.
And he's rocking companies that give this magazine $0.
Yeah.
And not only does it, the magazine's not making their companies that pay them happy, they're probably making them mad.
You would hope not.
Yeah.
Right? You would hope that's not in how this works.
This is a bit of the veil,
You would hope that the best shot of the 12 best shots of the year get the covers.
And that's what I think maybe an average person that's not involved in the industry would believe or think or want to believe and think. But yeah, this was the first time since the start of the Rider of the Year that the Rider of the Year didn't get the cover. And the reason was because all the other months were taken. They were already earmarked for people. And this was the only one that was really kind of could have be up for grabs. And what we did, what it was in this picture, they had to. They had to run it because it was so crazy. It was so good that you couldn't not run it. So it forced them to put it on the cover. And I don't know that you can say that about a lot of
Well, that's why this cover is so insane. Like, it's so ahead of its time. It's so iconic. The footage was never released, so that adds like a whole nother layer of it. The fact that it's a Rider of the Year cover and it's not that Rider. I'm like,
Yeah.
which I don't even like. It's just all sorts of stuff going on, and that is just insane. Insane story.
And if you look too, like, so mine on the inside, the spread was, we shot mine horizontal for the spread.
Yeah.
And what was so funny was when Trav came to my house and he saw that up on the wall, he's looking at
Travis Belsito?
Yeah, Travis. Yeah. He's looking at it like, he's like, is that rail? He's like, dude, I had that cover. And he's like, he didn't even remember that there was a spread on the inside because the cover dominated his memory to the point where he didn't even remember that there was another rider that actually hit it.
Yeah.
And then he's looking at it, and then below it there was an Excel ad because Excel bought that photo from Elijah and used it to run a life jacket ad because I'm wearing an Excel. So it got printed again for me in another magazine as a life jacket ad. So he was blown away by the fact that he didn't remember that there was even another rider that hit that rail, let alone then now that I was sponsored by Excel and it was a life jacket ad and all this other, history of that spot. Because it was a two-man adventure.
Well, and I like that the photo is completely different. Like when you said you shot it wide, it's like it's totally different.
And you know what's crazy? And everyone will see in a minute. My footage is shot from Nick's angle, and Nick's footage is shot from my angle.
You guys had it all fucking figured out.
It's perfect. It's really
when
good.
people are listening to this and they're like, this is the level of thinking that I would love to see everybody else at, because that's some top tier big brain shit.
But it was also bringing the right guys in, like both Dan and Elijah. Like, we weren't telling them to do that. We weren't telling them where to stand and where to be. They knew. They were
good crew.
They knew the angles that were going to make everything look the best.
100%.
And that's why, and I think they switched it up where he shot for that, and then they're switching it. They didn't want Nick's thing to look like his cover. They wanted it, and they were doing that because they're talented and they're smart and they know the sport. Both of them know the sport super well.
You don't want same shot, same angle, same spot. Like, you want everything different.
Yeah. So it's always, and that's how I felt filming Transgression as well. When you're out there and you're riding and you're trying to get your best stuff in these cool backdrops, but you got Ron Signglance filming you and Josh Letchworth taking pictures. It's like, oh my God, whatever I do is gonna look.
They're
incredible.
gonna help me out a lot.
Yeah, because I'm gonna do my thing and put my little art style on what I want it to be, but Josh is gonna put his art style on it. Ron's gonna put his art style on it, and then we're gonna have this thing that's like delivered to the end user as this incredible product.
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, we covered the cover, which is insane. The footage will be in, obviously, and I'll probably make some highlights out of it too. But
there was one more thing. There was a quick conversation after I stuck it about front boarding.
I was gonna ask. So you both board slid it, right foot forward, left foot forward, both sides of the rail. Who started the conversation about front boarding it?
Nick had talked about it. Nick had talked about how sketchy it would be to front board, but me in my head, I'm very comfortable toe side front board approach. So I actually would have been front boarding Nick's side.
Yeah.
And when he said it, I thought about it because I was jacked.
Yeah.
I was pumped from sticking it. And when he said it, I almost went back up to go again. But then what stopped me was we both just stuck this thing. We're both still alive and healthy. And that's enough.
And I'm not going to say that nobody should try and front board it. There's just the bails are completely different on a wake skate, I'm sure, backboard versus front board.
Totally. Like the risk is much easier to get away in a backboard.
Yeah. Everything's in front of you.
Yeah. And I knew that if I went for the front board, being the type of rider that I am, that it's not like I'm just going to go and one and done it. I was going to take some falls, and I wasn't sure that, especially with my knee already having slipped. And then I don't know what Nick was thinking, but we basically both just agreed that we just conquered that thing, and we're both we both didn't get hurt. And,
Well, surrounded by rocks, concrete stairs.
And the day's getting on, and maybe the cops are on their way already. We didn't know, so we were like,
pack up, successful mission. Let's get out of here.
Poaching out, yeah.
All right, so that was a great segment to kick it off. But I think we back it up early days. I mean, you said you're from Canada, but let's kind of run through the early days of getting into, was it wakeboarding first, wake skating? What'd that all look like for a young Ryan Doyle?
Oh, man. Well, my childhood, I grew up I was born very far north up in Moosonee, which is a little town off the coast of James Bay, which is a little bay off of not Lake Huron,
Superior?
Hudson Bay, sorry.
Oh, Hudson Bay.
Off of Hudson Bay. So this is why I get a bit nervous. This happened to me on the Wakeskate tour when they asked me to MC a little bit, and I'm like,
we just ran through this down rail perfectly.
Yeah.
No issues.
yeah, sorry.
A Canadian boy growing up.
Yeah. So I was born, very, very far north. So far north that you gotta the roads stop and you have to put your car on a train, and then they train you into
there.
Yeah. So but then we trickled north, lived in Timmins for a little bit, and then on down into a little place just north of Huntsville. It was a little town called Kearney, and my dad had 100 acres. He was a retired conservation officer and a trapper. I grew up as a trapper's son, so it was like hunting and trapping was like early days for us, but not anything. We weren't cultivated. It wasn't anything to do with things that we wanted to do. It was all you're going to do, we were building barns and stuff. And I wasn't, because I was the youngest. So I was, getting told get out of here. I'm bugging my brothers aren't working good enough because I'm bugging them. So sent into the woods, and I'm in the woods throwing pine cones out at my brothers and stuff. I was but then my parents split, and my mom took us, all three of us, and moved to Gravenhurst. And that's when it was now it's I lived in a town. Now it was hey, you could do things after school with the people, because we were an hour and a bit bus ride to get to a school. So no after school activities, nothing like that. We didn't have any of that stuff. And then when my mom moved us away, it was we had friends, and I skateboarded to school. We were so close to school, and I had friends that lived right there, and I had friends, period, we weren't just bush kids anymore. And I tried hockey and stuff like that.
Have to.
But the kids were just so good.
What age was this when you started hockey? Do you remember? Not to.
So I was maybe 12.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit later, and everyone was so good, and I was just getting sat on the bench, and the coach wanted to win, and so I was just this, that kind of, the vibe wasn't for me. And that's when I found snowboarding, and I had a couple buddies that were into snowboarding, and it was just great because there was no one telling me what to do. There was no rules, and we had a little hill in our backyard, and we built jumps and stuff. And my one buddy that I rode with lived close enough that we both walked to the spot, and it was great. And I loved it. I loved it immediately, and it was definitely my first love as far as board sports. Yeah. And then when the snow was gone, that's what made me get a skateboard. But I was never a super good skateboarder, and our town had mini ramps, a 6 foot and a 4 foot. And I remember I was so bad at skateboarding, a lot of times I would walk to them and then ride, and I was good on the ramps, but I wasn't a really good street skater. And then later on I got better because I would skateboard to school every day. But I was shy to ride my board to the ramp.
People yelling, do a kickflip.
Yeah, or something like that.
Then,
and I had tricks on the mini ramps, but not so much on the flat. But yeah, no, I loved snowboarding so much, and that was kind of my first board sports. And then that same friend, his name's Dan Cleland, he was actually the first guy that showed me a wakeboard video, the first time I ever saw a
talk
wakeboard
about this
video. Yeah. And I can't remember. I don't think it was the first time I ever rode. The first time I ever rode was with one of my brother's friends. They had a little boat, just one of those little charger boats with a big motor on the back, and he had a pylon. And he was into wakeboarding. His name was Joel Adair, and he got me up for the first time. And I think I wakeboarded a couple times. And then my buddy Dan, that I snowboarded with, his parents had a boat on the lake, and or like at their cottage or something. And he was like, check this out, come over and let's watch this video. And it was Mayday. And I remember, like, I think this was maybe a hook for me, watching that video, because one, Randall is interview. If you watch that video, like, Randall probably talks more than anyone in that film. He's this character that, like, is just so sure of everything he's saying. And so, like, it seemed like he was the most mature one there, even though he was like the youngest.
Braces, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he's
he totally
a young
does.
cat.
He has like an upside down hat, sideways visor, and he's just like. But the way that he's talking is just like so cool. Like, he has it all figured out, and like, this is the dopest shit, and like the shit I do is not quite like that, but like the vibe that he's giving off, and that's what it was saying to me. Like, and in my head, I'm like, this guy's the same age as me. Like, because we're both 81s, and I'm like, and then obviously Scott, ollieing rocks, jibbing rocks, and wake skating in that video. Like, the opening shot of that video is Scott on a wakeboard with grip tape on the top of it, doing like ollie backside 180s and shove it's like, that didn't register with me back then, but it was cool that this guy was so good on attached to his board that he was doing it without even bindings. And the way that he talked also was just like super chill and like this is dope. And then Gator's section, where it's just like, he does a heelside 540 where he literally goes over top of the mountain. And it's like this concept of turning horizontal momentum into vertical momentum off of these tiny wakes that they were doing double ups was just crazy. And I mean, he talks about blowing his knee in that section and everything, but like, that hit me too. Like, wow, like, that guy's cool as shit. And I think that was the vibe that I took away from it, is like, man, all these dudes are super cool. And like, they just seem to have what they love all figured out. And I remember Randall was talking about his dad getting a bus, and they went on tour, and he's homeschooled so that he can ride all the time. And I'm just like, man, that sounds like the life. And then even Chase Hebner's in that, where he starts off talking like, I'm 18 years old and I wakeboard.
I guess I'm a professional wakeboarder.
Yeah. And I'm just like, that's rad. That's super rad. Like, I think that video hit me harder than I realized at the time. I realize it more now. Yeah. Looking back.
How impactful it was.
Yeah. And then, I was just, I didn't have a wakeboard or anything. I just would borrow, like, my buddy Dan had a soundboard. And we rode that, and my brother's friend Joel, who, when my brother ended up moving away, and then Joel and I became friends, I ride more, and they would just loan me boards to ride because I didn't have a board. I had a snowboard. I didn't have a wakeboard. And then, that, I don't know how far you want me to go.
I mean, that's good. I have written down here, because you did send me some stuff, and I didn't know this, but I mean, first time coming down here and meeting Reed Hansen and that whole situation at WWC, like.
Okay, yeah, so that's there's so many stories with that, and I was funny because I was just talking with Pat. I've been hanging out with Pat and BT for the past few days, and we've just been laughing and telling stories about so much stuff. But that was definitely one that came up. So I got the opportunity. I graduated high school, and I applied to the colleges I wanted to go to, which was like art related. I was an artist, I knew nothing about computers. I didn't even have an email address or anything. I never used computers. All my art was canvas, painting, drawing. That's all the art that I had. And I applied to Sheridan Art College in Toronto, Humber. I applied to Sheridan, but also to Humber. And then I was like working, like assembling seat sliders, like working in a factory, and like listening to people like tell me about how in 25 years they're going to be retired and they're going to be set. And I'm just like looking at them like, oh my God, like that's the most depressing conversation I've ever had. You just talked your entire life away in one sentence. So Joel and Chris, this other guy, Chris Gard, they were like regional riders, and they would go in the winter. They would go down and get gigs. A lot of Canadians did get gigs coaching at camps in Florida, so that they could ride through the winter a little bit. So Chris and Joel had this gig at the World Wakeboard Center, I think it was called. Yeah, WWC. And Andy Hansen's place, right? So they were going to be coaches there, and there was four coaches. And so Joel's there, and he calls me, and he's like, dude, do you want to come down here? They need a cook. They need a cook for the camp. Do you want to come down and be a cook? If you do, you get to stay for free, and you get to ride 2 sets a day. And I was like, you know what? Seat slider guy, I'll see you later. Like, I was
seat slider guy.
I was like, screw this job. Like, I was depressing as shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, hell yeah, like that's an adventure. And that's, I think maybe that's what led me to always being like, that's why I went on so many trips, because I was always like, hell yeah, let's go. So I said, hell yeah, let's go to that. I bought he's like, all you got to do is buy your own ticket. So I bought my plane ticket off to go. And I actually had to, like, I was leaving for Florida, and my girlfriend, who is like my dream girl, I fell in love with this girl the second that I saw her. I remember it like clear as day, even right now. The very second that I saw her, she came later to our high school. I was in grade 11 and she was in grade 10. And she just has big blonde wavy hair, and she had this little light blue and dark blue, like numbered jersey tight shirt on and jeans. And I was like, I remember just walking the hallways and like looking and being like, that's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life. And then like proceeding to like just continue on walking, like no way that girl would ever talk to me. She's way too gorgeous. And then I'll bear you that whole story of how it all happened, which is a great story in itself. But anyway, we end up dating through all my senior years of high school until the end of high school. And for the record, I was at a party and she came up and sat on my knee, and my line was, "What's a gorgeous girl like you doing sitting on my knee?"
You didn't actually say that.
Yes,
no
I did.
way.
I swear to God.
And it worked.
And it totally worked. It totally worked. And yeah, but I always loved the fact that she came up and sat on my knee. So that means she must have saw something in me too.
100%.
Yeah. So we decided that I was doing this, and she got accepted to Guelph University. She was going to university. And I hated the idea of her like at university being like, I have a boyfriend. He lives in Florida. And then I'm in Florida. Like, I have a girlfriend. She lives in Canada. I just thought that would maybe just mutilate or destroy maybe what we had. And maybe what's a better idea is we just both go live our lives. And if it's meant to be, then it'll be. And we kind of made a deal that, you know, if we're still single when we're 30, we'll find each other and get married. So anyway, cook at WWC is the offer on the table. Boom, I'm gone. And I show up there, and it's great. I'm loving it. It's awesome. I had a tantrum and a 360.
We're still strapped in at this point for the listeners.
I've never wake skated at this point. And I meet Reed Hansen. He's 10 years old, 10 years old Reed Hansen, and he's wakeboarding, and he's trying to, you know, make an impact on the junior men's tour. And Trevor is a young gun on the pro tour.
A phenom, yeah.
And he's like, and I remember being like, and I understand this so much more now as a dad, but back then it was like, Andy was like, he was tough. He was like, get, you know, mob fives, 10 in a row. Let's, you know, get them done, crack these off, you know. And it's like, you want to hang out with your friends? You know, get your wakeboarding in, get your stuff done. Like, this is serious. Like, and then it's like, I remember it was like Pro Tour stop coming up. And it's crazy that I remember all of this, but we were only there for 2 weeks. It only lasted 2 weeks.
Well, why did it only last 2 weeks?
Well, Chris Gard is kind of a young guy, and shit disturber, I guess. I don't know how else to say it, but that was the
That's a great 2 words to use.
that was the general vibe at the camp. And he was like throwing smoke bombs in people's rooms and doing all this stuff to the point where Andy was like, this kid's out of here, you know? And he kind of pulled Joel aside because Joel's a bit older. And he's like, listen, you know, I've had enough of your buddy. Like, he's out. He's gone. So Joel's like straight up like, you kicked my friend out, I'm out of here. I'm out of here too. Like, and that's like half of his coaching roster. There's only 4 coaches.
Yeah.
And so it's Joel and I in the room. And he turns and looks at me and he's like, does that mean you're going to leave too? And I was like, well, dude, like, I'm not here. I'm not trying to be a pro rider or anything. I'm just here to have fun with my friends. And if that's not here anymore, then, you know, I guess, yeah, I am out. Cause, so that's what it was. But the 2 weeks that I was there, I actually learned a back roll and a scarecrow. Cause I was riding 2 sets a day. I'd never rode that much ever in my life.
Like a solid dialed in boat, water's good.
I was actually having a lot of fun.
Coaching.
Short of like scarecrows gave me like tennis elbow in my one arm, but I was having a blast. I didn't want to leave, but at the same time, I think I just felt like I didn't want to stay there either because I didn't really care. I wasn't trying to be a pro rider or even a regional rider or anything. I was just wanted to have fun with my friends for the summer. And so that, you know, then we all left and then we were like camping on the side of the road by Cocoa Beach. And they had connections. Chris and Joel were calling the editor of SBC, which was Brian Gardner at the time. And Brian started making phone calls on our behalf, you know, who we can find, blah, blah, blah. And he got a hold of Pat Panakos. And he's like, I got a guy. And we were like maybe a week. We were camping out on Cocoa and just bumming around that town. And we found that if you go around the back side of one of the hotels that are there, you can just park and then walk in. And they have an outdoor pool. And we would just sneak in and like be in the outdoor pool, use their showers and shit, and then dip out. Yeah, so Gardner is the one that brought up Pat, and then we drove to meet him, and he was living in his house. He was living with his girlfriend and his girlfriend's brother at the time in a house, and there was an extra room. And we rented that extra room off of him. The 3 of us just had mattresses on the floor. For 2 weeks, he's like, but we're done. Our lease is up in 2 weeks, and I'm moving to this property, and I'm starting a wakeboard camp. So he'd already done the first carnival at this time, because he leased it for the tournament, but then they pushed all the rails into kind of Lake 3, and that's when I think he got the idea that he was going to start, you know, a rail park. And that was just happening like right now. He was literally lease up in his rental house, and we're gonna go there. So it was gonna turn to, you can rent this room for 2 weeks, but then I'm going to the thing. And we were like, well, can we come with you? And we'll just, you know, live on the property and whatever. He was like, yeah. He was just like wickedest guy, and was just like, sure, yeah. He was like down to help anyone, and like just 3 random kids from Canada never met before, and it's like now we're like living in his house, and he's inviting us to like this property where he's starting this big new venture on and stuff. And it was great. I just immediately loved him because I didn't have a lot of maybe strong like male figures in my life. And I think Pat was like, maybe other than my stepdad, I think he was like one of the first guys that I was just like, man, this guy's just super chill, super cool. And like, is not like just trying to pound like what to do at me all the time, you know? And it was just cool. But Joel and Chris hated it. When we left, we got to the project, it was a drought. So the lakes were only 4 feet deep. You could walk across every lake. Kind
of sick.
And the attachments where you drive from lake to lake, they were dry. You couldn't take a boat from lake to lake.
Oh.
So the Wave Runner, all it had was a Wave Runner. It was just out on Lake 3, and we just beached it each time when we were done. And there was like a couple new built rails. There was like one up flat. So Joel and Chris would leave to go find boat sets with other people. They would ride Picket a little bit with the Gator crew, and they had other guys. I don't know. I have no idea really what they were doing because I didn't leave. I was like, what are we doing today, Pat? You know, and we were like, you know, we would do yard work and clean up. We would do stuff for the landowner, Lisa, this ex-pro 3 event lady. We would do to knock off rent to make the more stuff we did around the place, the less it cost us, less it cost rent, right? So we would just, bus work for her and it would be cheaper for us to stay there. And so that's when, and I didn't have a board. I was using one of Chris's boards, and then Chris was like, after all that, he was, I don't know if he was breaking boards or something, but if something was like, you can't ride my boards anymore. So I didn't have anything to ride.
And these are still wakeboards.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Pat's like, well, I have an old cassette. You can ride it. And it's just this like new. It's a cassette flat deck, and it's one of the boards Thomas gave him. I think maybe after shooting for Natural Born Thrillers, or maybe that was before. I don't know. But he had a cassette board there. It was like the maroon one or something, or yellow. I think it was maybe, or yellow or maroon. I can't remember. But anyway, I was like, okay, I'll give this a try. So we go out to Lake 3, and all there is this rail, and it's my toe side, but I don't have toe side. So I end up coming switch into this rail, and I hit it switch, and then I come out regular. And I'm just like, oh my God, that was amazing. That felt great. And so all I'm doing is hitting this rail switch, coming out regular, and then like buttering around. And then I was just like, right from that first day, I was like, that's it. I'm never going to wakeboard ever again.
Just like that.
This is it. It was like, boom, switch right to, this is the coolest thing ever. And I'm going to keep doing it. But before that too, I think I'd went at, before, like, while we were on Cocoa Beach, we got the boys, Joe and Chris were looking for boat sets and stuff. And they got invited to like Nick and Jewel Heaney's house. And I think Sonia Sheffer was living with them. And we went there, and they wrote a boat set, and I was just chilling in the boat. And Grubb was there or something that day, and I saw Grubb wake skate before like going to the project, and he was on the big banana board, and it looked so much fun. So I had it in my head that there weren't people just wakeboarding. There were people that were like choosing to focus on wake skating.
Yeah.
And I think maybe getting to see a guy like Grubb ride, it was a pretty high level. And I remember you did it like around the world, where you whip the guy out so hard that you go all the way around the boat, then the boat turns, right? And I thought that was super cool. But yeah, I think I had it in my head that like, oh, these guys are all in the wakeboarding. These guys are doing this on wakeboarding, but like wake skating is this new thing that not a lot of people are doing. And I'm interested, and it feels awesome. It feels so much cooler to hit a rail on a wake skate than on a wakeboard.
Yeah. Okay. So wake skating digs its claws in at this point.
Yeah.
How long are you at the projects for? Because you spent a ton of time there, and this was obviously the beginning of it. So like, run through like the next bit of the projects.
Yeah. So Joel and Chris were like, I think it was after a month or two, Joel and Chris were like, yeah, we're going home. They were done. They're heading back to their regular lives or whatever. And I was like, see you later. I live here now. I'm never going home. I live here forever now. As far as I was concerned, like these 88 acres were the entire world. Like I didn't want to go anywhere or do anything else. I was like, this is where I'm going to be forever now, because it was so fun, and I enjoyed hanging out with Pat so much. But then I got accepted. The college applications I sent out, I got accepted to the art program that I really wanted to do. So I was like, shit. So it was 3 months, I think, and I waited right to the last day and got a flight home to start college. But we had filmed a bunch and done a bunch of pictures, and I'd gotten a little bit better, and I was doing like 1-footer slides on the rail, and I was doing like switch 360s over the box. And I remember Alliance came out and shot, they shot this thing with paintball. We did this paintball where we all lined up on the rail, and then the rider had to get over the fun box, and we all
some jackass
yeah,
stuff.
We all shot at him with the paintball guns, and Thomas was riding, and I rode, and we all took turns riding and shooting with the paintball guns, and all this stuff, then started to come out in the mags, and it's like, oh, then there's me standing on a rail, and then so I'm at school. And I go there, and I hate it kind of a little bit. But just like, I hate that it has me away from where I want to be, I think is what I hated about it. And I was like, and then I go in, and it's like, there was like 60 kids, there was like 1,500 people applied, and there was 60 spots. And somehow I got one. And my art teacher wrote a big cover letter about how good of an artist that I was. And I remember, because I always do this. I do this with, I want to know why. I always want to know why. I always want to know why. So I'm like, I go into my course head, the guy that runs the course, and I'm like, why? Because I felt so out of place. I go in and it's like, we're going to be handing it out and handing in everything through email and like, you need this. And it was coding, it was computers, and it was all this stuff. And I'm sitting beside these coder kids and these like super smart kids. And I'm like, I'm putting my hand up like, how do you make an email account? I don't know how to have an email address. How do you make an email account? And everyone's looking at me like I'm
an alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just felt so out of place, the opposite feeling of being at the projects. And I remember I went to my course and I asked him, well, you know, why did you accept me in this course? And he pulled it out of his chest. He's like, this right here, this cover letter that your art teacher wrote. He was like, I can teach you how to use a computer, but I can't teach these other kids how to be artistic. This program needs you. I have a ton of coder kids. I have a ton of smart kids in here. I have very few artistic people in this program. This program needs you, kind of thing. And he was right. I made friends with 2 coder kids, Colin and Kevin Fung, I think their names were, and they were just like wicked coder. And I remember I sat down beside this kid because he had like his workstation computer, like everyone had their workstation computer, but beside it he had a laptop, and he was playing Command and Conquer like as the class is going on. And I'm like, oh man, I'm sitting beside this guy. Like, and he was just this really wicked coder kid. He hacked all the course programs onto my computer for free, which was a lot of money to buy all these things. And he was right. Like, I ended up doing group projects where I was drawing pictures. I learned Illustrator and Photoshop. I learned how to start manipulating pictures. And then I learned Final Cut, and I started editing. And I had footage. I had footage from writing at the project. I started editing that and using it as school projects. And I would draw pictures, and then we turned them into first-person shooters. Like, these coder guys were like, we were making like 2D scroller first-person shooters where I'd have I'd draw like a pop-up guy, and then I'd draw like the shot version of him. And like when you get it, or the version of him shooting, and it's like, if you can get the mouse to him and click on it fast enough, you get the shot version, and then you'd fade away, and then a new guy would pop up. And it was great. And like, all our stuff did so well. Like, all our projects did so well because the artwork that I was doing looked really good, and the coders just put it all together, and it was incredible. So I ended up enjoying school a lot. And then because I was editing my own footage, I ended up with promo videos, and I was like, I sent them away, and I started sending them around because I knew through Joel and Chris, I'd gone to a few provincial level things, and I've seen some like riders that were like sponsored, and a lot of them were like, I'm sponsored by Dragon, you know, I'm sponsored by this company, and they're like very like, and I thought like, holy shit, you know, that's fucking awesome. Or I don't know if I can swear, but
you can say whatever you want. Yeah.
Okay, I was like, that's awesome. I always thought like, you know, these guys are so awesome, they're sponsored, and in my mind, I think this is the veil. And remember, Nick Taylor was talking a little bit about this, where it's like the veil of the industry. I just assumed that sponsor meant like, these dudes are getting paid. Like these dudes are balling. Like, you know,
they got free t-shirts.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't realize it at the time, right? So yeah, I was like, I sent away. I sent to all these companies that I'd seen on all these other Ontario provincial style riders. So I sent away to Dragon because I was like, Dragon Eyewear is the dopest. Like, I'm super pumped on that. Not even realizing that it's not Dragon. It's a company called Time Bomb Distribution out of BC, and they also distribute Etnies shoes. So he hits me back. It's Mike McComb. He hits me back, and he's like, hey, we saw your promo video. Looks awesome. Like, we don't have any, like, there's 0 wake skaters. So like, we would love to sponsor you. The only catch is like, you have to sign with Etnies as well, Dragon and Etnies. And I'm like, Etnies is like my favorite shoe at the time. And I'm like, I'm on cloud 9. I'm like so stoked. And I don't really know what this all means. And he's like, order some stuff. Like, you know, go to the website, click some stuff, order some stuff, send me the email, send me the stuff you want. So I'm just on the website. I'm like picking out like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. This is cool. And I'm thinking like, he's going to send me like 1 or 2 things. He literally sent me every single thing that I clicked on. And it was this massive, it was like a refrigerator box or something showed up. And it was like all these shoes, all these glasses. And like, I couldn't believe it. I put it all out all over my mom's or our pool table. And like, I'm taking pictures of it all. And I'm like so stoked. And this is while I'm like at school. And now I'm like picking up sponsors and I got picked up Bear wetsuits as well. But this is all, and I didn't realize there was any difference. I thought like, man, I ride for Dragon, but what I actually rode for was a distribution company that distributes Dragon. And same with Bear. It's like, you're not actually riding for, and I find this all out later, kind of in a bit of a painful way, but I'm stoked. I'm at college with like people that are trying to be like web designers and shit. And I'm like the whole time, my whole vibe the whole time is just like I was like, I'm a rider. I'm trying to be awake. I'm not like, this is just something I'm doing. So I have it for my back pocket. And then if the second that this thing is done, I'm out because I have this other stuff that I want to do. And then getting these sponsors just like cemented that kind of, where now I'm like rocking all this gear and I have all this stuff showing up. And, it was cool. I felt cool. I started feeling like one of those guys from the videos or one of those regional riders that, you know, is sponsored by all this stuff. And so that was then through the first leg of school. And now I'm going, and as soon as school let out, it was a 2-year program. So the first year, and as soon as school let out, I'm gone. I'm on a plane and I'm right back to Florida. And I'm like, I got new swag. I'm taking shoes out of the box, doing the laces up and going straight to wake skating, which like, I think before, like my first shot in the mag was, I was wearing like Joel's like size 12 shoes or something like in the shot. But that's the other thing. While I was away at school, that footage and that shots that I was editing, they got put into a project session that ended up coming out in the movie or the film Natural Born Thrillers. So there was while I was away at that first leg of school, like I got into a film that was a sideways film and Randall was in it. So it was kind of like me being like, holy crap, that it's happening, you know, like I saw this guy in these videos when I was 15 and now not that much time later, like I'm in a video, you know, that he has the Ender banger part in, and he's like a badass, like upper echelon guy.
One of the best parts of all time.
Yeah. And I'm like, and I think that was like another hook setting moment for me, because also that a shot of me doing a 1-footer ended up in the magazine because SBC did a write-up about Joel and Chris going to Florida. And there was a little like footnote picture on the one page, like, and also tag along, you know, Ryan Doyle is wake skating, you know, is the new up and coming wake skater for, you know, in Canada kind of thing is I guess how it was pitched. But so I'm in a magazine and I can leverage all of that helped me get those sponsors. Right. So then from there, I'm back at, after that first year, back at the projects. And now I'm like, I got sponsors. So I'm like, Etnies they send me banners and stuff. I'm putting banners on the rail, putting Etnies banners on the rail. I've got like stickers, representation. And now I'm like, you know, let's shoot, like, let's pump these companies. Little do I know, like the politics behind all of it. And this is what I was alluding to earlier with Harlos's cover. Yeah. I'm sitting here putting Etnies banners on a rail for a magazine that Etnies doesn't pay.
And they're not even paying you.
No. They don't
not paying anybody.
No. They don't advertise. They don't pay. In all intents and purposes, for Wakeboarding Mag to run a cover with Etnies banners on it is bad for business. It's bad for their business. And it's a fold out too. So, but this comes later. Like, this is probably pissing off their other sponsors, maybe even. But I didn't realize any of that. I didn't understand any of that. I just was like so pumped to have these companies, and I loved Etnies so much that I was just like, I'm going to do everything, you know, for this company. But yeah, I was largely on flow. I mean, the flow was great. I was blown away by it. But so I shoot and I film and I go hard all for that whole summer again that I'm off school, and then I have to leave again and I head back. And I'm at school. I finished the thing, but while I'm at school, halfway through the second semester, everyone's getting co-ops. They get put into these web firms and start doing co-ops for companies. And I'm, my mind is like, well, how can I get around? How can I get around this? Because I don't actually want to go and work for a web company. So I was like, I found out that I can work for like a media company or whatever. So I call Guillaume. The new editor of SBC is Guillaume Perret, which is a super great dude, and he did all the Wakestocks in Wasaga, which was such great years, the Wasaga Beach Wakestock years. And Guillaume, I called Guillaume and I was like, Guillaume, can I do a co-op at SBC? And he was like, sure, dude. And I was like, but I don't actually want to do the co-op. We'll just fudge the note. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever you want. He was like, yeah, sure, whatever you want to do. He's like, we'll just make it up. So we fudged all the hours and all the time that we needed. But I put together, Josh Letchworth had shot a sequence of me doing a 360 across the rail and then coming out of it and doing a shove down the downslope. And it was this morphed sequence. And we ran it as a 2-page spread. And then I wrote a big trick tip, and we used a sequence of Aaron Reed, a sequence of another Canadian rider, Todd Shell, and a sequence of Parks, I think, doing an ollie frontside 180. So it was an ollie frontside 180, Reed doing a front board 270 shove, and I think maybe Todd doing a wake to wake toe side 180 or something like that. And I wrote trick tips for these pictures and stuff we have, and I put it all together in a big thing, and it ran in SBC magazine, and that was what I took back to the school as see, we really did,
something's real.
Yeah, we really did things, and this was one of the big things we did, on top of all the office work that I was doing.
Sure, getting coffee.
Yeah. So that was great, and it was more magazine coverage and more fuel for the fire, and my career was kind of being built, which still seems crazy to me to think back on, because I think I was always just looked at as that guy, because I didn't come up in wake. I wasn't a part of because Muskoka had a big wake scene. There was a lot of good guys, and I was never a part of any of it.
Yeah.
I was never a member of any amateur Canadian association. I was never did any tournaments or any youth stuff. I was never a prodigy kid. I wasn't involved in anything Canadian wake at all. I was a snowboard kid that had friends that were in the wake. So I had no standings in anything and no real coverage or knowledge of anything outside of the companies I applied and got sponsored by. So it's coming to the end. I'm graduating in May of the year, and I'm so jacked. I'm so pumped. I'm like, this is it. School's done. I'm going to go, and I'm going to be full-time down at the projects, and I'm super excited for that. And people are the school's placing all the students, giving them jobs, they're placing them in these firms, and the money was actually pretty good. We got these job offers, and it was here's this offer. Cause I feel like whenever you're at crossroads in life, there's always going to be these things that are put before you where it's this is maybe you're
going to test you.
Yeah. This is your righteous path, but here's another path and here's another path. And they look pretty all right too. And that's kind of what happened, where it was everyone's so stoked and they're getting placed. And I'm but I'm so locked in my mind. I'm no way. It doesn't matter. It's not money. I don't care. I don't care about money. It's not about money. I don't want money. I want this. And, I'm supposed to be struggling with that decision, but I don't think I really was at all. I was 100% going. But on May 2003, the month I graduated, I get a call from Guillaume, the editor of SBC, and he's like, dude, do you know you're on the cover this month? And I was like, what? And I was like, you put me on the cover? And he was like, no, dude, not me. He's like, you're on the cover of Wakeboarding Magazine this month. I was like, get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? And he sends me a PDF, and it comes up, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what? And I can't believe, I know the shot. I remember the day. It's Letchworth was shooting. It was this crazy sunset. And I was doing shoves up onto the rail. I was coming up the slope and doing shoves onto the top. And I remember being like, I stuck a whole bunch of shoves and I was feeling great. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wing some 3 shoves here. Like I've stuck a bunch of shoves and maybe they look good in the shots, but a 3 shove's probably going to look even better in the shots. So I just started winging 3 shoves as well. And I put my feet on a couple. I think I land like a few. It was the first time I ever landed. And I was like all stoked. And I didn't think too much of it. But then I saw that shot and it was like a cover. And I didn't even know it was a fold out then because it was just the PDF. And I was like floored. But then obviously at that same time, I'm like this is, this is what I wanted. And here it's happening. And I can't believe it. And I half thought it was a joke. And Guillaume got his people in the editing room to like make up a thing. But it was real. And it was strange. There was mixed emotions from people I was kind of close to.
What are they saying? Were they talking shit? What's going on?
Well, I think that there was a lot of like, you don't put the bench warmer on the cover, kind of.
What if the bench warmer gets a good shot?
Yeah, so
Fuck them.
Yeah, well, and I guess, and that's what later I found out was the case. But like, I think there was a lot of guys who, put their whole childhoods into.
Did they get a good shot though?
I don't know. Yeah, well,
I'm sure they probably did. But that's yeah. Continue though. It's interesting.
It's easy to say that, but I think I wasn't prepared to meet people that weren't stoked, and I did meet some, and that was weird. But then I didn't care because I went back to Florida and everyone was stoked.
Yeah.
Everyone was stoked. And
are you talking Canadian, like people in Canada weren't stoked that you got it, not the people in Florida?
Not the people in Florida.
No. Oh, other Canadians.
The hometown crew. It was and I wasn't even super aware of it all. I kind of got told a lot of it like later.
After the fact, yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't really, like I said, I wasn't in that scene.
They're just jealous.
I was gone.
Yeah, they're just jealous.
Yeah, I don't know. That's easy to say, but like at the same time, I went to my home, which was the projects, and everyone was stoked. And Pat was stoked. Everyone was like, and this is when the veil got lifted for me. This was the big moment where I was like, holy crap. And it was like, I went, and everyone was like, dude, you're going to get paid. You're going to get paid so much money. Like, they were like, this is how much it should be. This is how much you should get paid. They're like, dude, you put banners on the rail. You're getting so, like, I was like, everyone was pumping me up. I was like, holy crap. And then, so when I called Mike, this is when I found out this whole distribution thing, I don't actually ride for Etnies. I ride, and the conversation goes like, I called him, I'm like, yeah, I got this covered. He's like, dude, this is incredible. This is awesome. But, we don't have a budget at all for Wake. We're strictly product. No Canadian athlete has ever received a paycheck for anything, photo incentive or otherwise.
Yeah.
Like not a salary, no photo incentive, nothing, like product only. And this whole like big elaborate like foundation of people from my home province that I had in my head that I thought were just like rock stars with their dragon and their sponsors and all this stuff. It shattered the whole thing. And I realized that every single one of them was just on flow. And so he said to me, if you ever get offered money from a company, take it.
Yeah. Because
you will never get money ever here. And I was just like, holy crap, that was like very like sobering. And I was like a bit defeated. And this happens to me a lot. Then I wake up the next day and I'm like, no, fuck that. That's not how it goes down. And I start doing research and I find the contact for Etnies USA. And I get a hold of like corporate and I get a hold of, because I want to talk to the guy. I don't want to talk to the guy's assistant. I want to talk to the dude.
Who's cutting the checks?
Yeah. So I finally get a hold of this guy, and we had this great conversation, and I send him what it was. And he's like, dude, this is, he's pumped. He's stoked. He thinks this is great. Like, I can't believe you did all this. Like, this is incredible. And he cuts me a check for like $1,000, but then also says that Wake is not a market that they're interested in entering at this time. So this will be a one-off thing. And he's like, I just want to show you how much we appreciate, what you did. Yeah. And maybe that's what I was looking for, because that felt great, even that. But it also came with the realization that, Etnies is not the company I need to continue.
Sure.
On.
As much as I love it, as much as they're cool, they send me a bunch of shit.
Yeah. So I had that vibe. And then so now I'm starting to do like toe jams and other tournaments, and I'm around the scene, and I'm riding with Byerly and BT like every day. And Reef just was natural. Bish was there, and he was like, dude, it's yours. Like, you got it. No questions asked. And it wasn't my first money contract, because I actually signed with Kampus before.
And we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. But I left Etnies for Reef, and then I got to start riding Byerly's, which Byerly was riding and BT was riding, and it felt more like, now I'm at home, I'm with my crew, I'm riding my crew's things, I'm supporting, Scott's shoe. It's a real wakeskate shoe.
Well, and there's a brand that wants to be in wakeskating.
And I loved Etnies, and I loved their shoes, and I loved rocking them, and I loved pulling them out of the boxes and riding in them. And I got a lot of shots in the mags with really flashy looking brand new Etnies, and I love that whole era. But it was great to be on Reef, and it was not just photo incentive, it was salary. It was like I was being paid monthly and photo incentive. And that's the other thing. Like, I like to bring up this point, because the levels of sponsorship, I think, are largely not understood by everyone. Because I meet a lot of people that are like, oh, you're a pro. Do you know so-and-so? He was pro. Do you know so-and-so? He was pro. And I was like, I always, when I would go home for Wakestock, I'd meet people that say stuff like that to me. And I'm like, I never seen that person on Pro Tour. So no, I don't know that person. But I think like a lot of people would be like, get like a shop sponsor. And then it's like, then they're telling everyone they're pro kind of.
Don't get me fucking started on this, Ryan.
Yeah.
Dude.
So for me, this is like, the level of sponsorship is like, level one is like, is the shop sponsorship. And then you get a certain amount of money and you get to shop the store. So you have access to all brands. You can wear whatever you want. Then from that, you get picked up by a brand on flow. So say you pick up like an O'Neill or a Billabong or something like that. Now you're married to that company. You can't wear other brands. You're picked up for clothing. You have to wear O'Neill everything. And then you're on flow. So that's kind of level two. And then beyond that, it's like, well, now you're getting coverage and you warrant a photo incentive package, because you're going to get in the mags, or you're going to get in the video. And if it shows O'Neill product, and it's not, if it's hard, then it's this much money. If it's soft, a bit blurry, then it's this much money. And you can sign a photo incentive package, which largely is giving up your amateur status at that point, because you're accepting money for your services. But then to step beyond photo incentive becomes salary, where now you are still with the brand, still have the photo incentive, but now that comes with a monthly check, where no matter what you do, every month there's a certain amount of money coming to you.
Yeah.
And that's a great, rare spot to get to. And to me, that's pro. You're pro there. But the real legit level of pro, and I think this is why I think maybe Nick alluded to it there, where your board company is not usually your biggest paycheck, but it's your legitimacy within the industry. I think that a pro model board, when a company starts asking for your name on their product, you're there now. Now you're there. You have a pro model board. It's hard to deny someone being pro when they have a pro model board. And then I think then beyond that level, which is ultra rare, you then have subsidiary companies that aren't necessarily the industry wanting your name on their product. So like super upper echelon stuff, like Byerly having a signature boat, you know, Randall having a signature boat, Byerly with Reef having his own shoe, and the same within basketball, like Jordan with Nike had, you know, the shoes, and Converse had their whole crew, like Larry Bird and all those guys. They all had signature shoes because it was, you know, to push those shoes, and you picked kind of the shoe that you felt matched your personality of the player that you wanted, and it was to help, you know, sell shoes and stuff like that. So that's like the upper echelon, even beyond the pro,
the standard,
the pro model board,
which
is, I think, a rare level to get to, a pro model board. But having signature other products other than like is like top tier, especially
shit.
when it's a boat, especially when it's like a
well,
boat.
Is that the only two that have had pro model boats? Is there three?
I can't.
Randall and Byerly, I can't think.
I'm
sure maybe I'm wrong, but if it is, it's not many other people.
Yeah.
So that's
it's
rarefied air, and
and that's how I break down the whole thing. So
sense.
when someone's running up and saying, "Oh, so and so, they're a pro. Did you know them?" or whatever, is like I'm wondering at what level.
Even to collect money though is super rare. Like
I think so.
Like obviously, as you work up the ladder, less and less people are getting those things. Makes sense, but
and odds are if you are, you're on the pro tour. Like I would see you there. Yeah, you know, like we were there. I didn't see it.
Okay, so let's talk Kampus then. So, you know, you kind of said Reef obviously came, but Kampus was like...
Yeah, Kampus was my first money contract. And that came that year, the second year I was at school. And I had those promo videos and I'd sent them around, and I got in Natural Born Thrillers, and I had a few magazine coverage. But
what even is Kampus too, for those who don't know?
But the cover hasn't come out yet. The
Kampus, no, Kampus. Like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people on the wakeboard side of things are unfamiliar with what Kampus even is or was, I guess.
Okay, so Kampus was rare in that it was kind of like a cassette where it was a wakeskate only company. It wasn't a wakeboard company that decided to make wakeskates also. They were a pure breed. I mean, they had association companies like Collective Development was one of their other companies, and then they had a snowboard company as well. Like it was all under their banner, Dwayne. So Collective Development had Kyle Murphy and Randall Harris riding for them at the time. So when I signed with Kampus, it was and my path crossed with Randall so much, but like it was so much later when I actually got to know him. But in my head, he was one of the, when I watched Mayday, like, so whenever I was like, so when I signed with Kampus, I was like, I'm on a team with Randall Harris, you know, kind of, you know, but back then I was like Randy. I was always saying Randy Harris, because that was what it all was in there. And it didn't become Randall. And that was hard for me when we were filming Transgression to call him Randall, because he wanted to be called Randall. He was kind of reinventing himself, and he was coming out anew from all of the things that brought him down. And he was like fresh and focused, and he was Randall the Vandal, you know, he was coming back differently. So I remember that I struggled with calling him Randy. I'd slip and call him Randy like a bunch of times. And I'm always like hyper aware of trying not to like insult people or whatever, right? So I was like struggling with calling him Randall. Anyway, so when I signed with Kampus, I was like kind of half stoked. I felt like I was on a team with even just loosely. But yeah, Kampus was a wakeskate only company, and they were making boards that were like affordable. Like that was their thing. They wanted to make very affordable products that anyone can afford to get into the sport. And at the time when I signed, Steve Wallman and Leif Urkala were the two pros, and I signed as the third pro. And Leif and Wallman both had pro models, and I was signing on, and I was taking on the K39 spot. I was going to promote
Kampus K39.
Yeah, the Kampus K39, which became, I don't even know how, but became maybe like one of the more iconic wake skates ever. Like, and it was like, I don't know how that happened, because it was called like the lunch tray. Like people were like,
it's kind of a sick name, honestly.
Yeah, like they were like, there was like, it was not toted out as like an innovative product. It was like, it was a cheap product.
A standard issue wake skate.
Yeah, but it allowed so many people to get into the sport, I think. And I didn't realize it as much back then as I do now. And also listening to all the other guys talk about how it was their first board. Like, I love that. That's so great. Because that's what it was, that's what it was supposed to be, where Leaf and Wallman's board had a bit more technology in them. They were selling at a higher price point, and the K39 was like the entry level board. And it was great. It was a California-based company. So they flew me out to California, and I was doing these photo shoots. And, there's a few campus surprises in there too. They did everything really cool to make you feel like they did these cards. We had these autograph cards everywhere we went, and we'd sign autographs for people. And I ended up seeing them. I ended up meeting people and seeing people that had them in their houses and stuff, because we distributed so much of that stuff. And it was just cool. It was the first time I was ever on a team, and I was just so stoked. And I think Leaf and Wallman were just such cool guys.
How much we talking from Kampus when you first signed?
It was nothing. It was so minuscule. I think it was $50-$100 a month.
50 a month?
Yeah.
That's not even worth.
No, but having said that, it was still a full photo incentive package. It was still full flow. It was all free boards.
Okay.
I didn't have any expenses. I had zero expenses.
Still the projects.
I lived at the projects for free. I ate with the campers for free. I rode for free. And largely, I would have, $100 in my bank account at the end of the month. I didn't go out. I wasn't downtown whooping it up.
Yeah.
And I lived super humbly, and I didn't need money, and it wasn't about money.
Well, you even said it wasn't about the money. I mean,
no, it was about and they were paying my plane tickets. They were flying me to the tour stops. They were covering everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was getting to go to the tour stops, travel around, and I was getting to they were helping me get to all these places where before I was just a guy at the projects.
Yeah, yeah.
So to me, that was super huge.
Okay, talk about trying to make a board with Kampus though, a different board.
So yeah, as Kampus went on, I remember the kickflip happened. I think it was Tim Kovacic, maybe. Pretty sure he stuck the first one.
You're asking the wrong guy.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like
when we had the wakeskaters in here a few weeks ago, that would have been the time. And I feel like we did talk about it, but anyways.
I think it was, if memory serves me correct, he was the first one. And then it became like the backflip in motocross.
Yeah, bam.
If you don't have it, then your career's ending.
Yeah.
So you either get with it or good night. You're done. So after it happened, it was get one. Everyone needs one. If you don't, so that was the vibe. And I remember Kampus had signed George Daniels, Philip Bassino, and Clint Tompkins onto their amateur team. That was our AM team. 3 rock stars in wakeskating. These kids were incredible. And Dwayne's in California, running a snowboard brand and a wake binding brand as well as Kampus, right? And we're in Florida where every month something is happening, and I remember the first kickflip I ever saw in real life was George Daniels. It was on the flat K39 board that I rode, and he came out to the projects, and he was just this little ripper kid. I think he was maybe 15, and he was just pounding them off like they were nothing, like they were Tic Tacs. And I was we were blown away. We all were. And I remember getting on the phone to Dwayne, and I was mad, I was upset, and I was yelling at him, because I think I didn't start yelling. I think I called him and was dude, this kid, George Daniels, he's incredible. I just saw him ride today. He came out of the projects. He's killing it. He's sticking kickflips like they're nothing. You need to put this kid on the pro team right now. And he's like, oh, there's no room on the pro team for fucking another kid. He hasn't proved himself, blah, blah. And I was like, give him my spot on the team. This kid is incredible. Like, you're not. And this is when I think I maybe started yelling because I was like, you're not listening to what I'm saying. Like, this kid is the future. This kid is, because this kid has it. And I've kind of always like felt about myself that I'm not that. So I was like, give him my spot. I'll go on to the AM team, or I'll go to a veteran spot or an unpaid spot
figure it out. Get me out of here.
Whatever. Like, this kid deserves it, basically. And he like pretty much proceeded to just like talk me off a ledge and be like, no, dude, you put in your time. You know, you have the coverage. You're in the mags. Like, you're who we've got money behind you. We're promoting you. And he's young. You know, he'll get his time. And you just gotta, you know. So he like talked me off the ledge and basically said that, you know, George will get there, you know, in due time, but just, you know, don't go crazy here.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And so that kind of led into, I was kind of like, I don't really like that much, but I'm going to continue on. And then that kind of led into concave boards started to come out. And I remember I tried one. And I was like, holy shit, you know, this is awesome. This is also the future, you know, just like George was. So I'm on the phone, like, Dwayne, like, concave boards, like, this is the future. Compression, like, we have to do this. Like, and for me, I'm going through a Kampus board every 2 weeks. So he's sending me boards like crazy because all I do is hit rails. I'm a rail guy. I'm like pounding rails like crazy, and I'm smashing boards and I'm breaking them enough that they get soggy and are out. And he's sending me so many boards all the time, nonstop sending me boards. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, let's make a board. And in my head, because I didn't come from a skateboard background, I'm not married to grip tape. That K39 was a foam top board. And I saw Grubby riding foam top. And I remember when I used to ride that cassette board that Pat gave me, I would like fall on it all the time because I'm a masher. I'm falling all the time. I would rip my ankle bone open, and then I'm in the water every day, and then it's just about to maybe be healing, and then I rip it off again. Like, and I was just had bloody ankle bones, and I'm just like, dude, and then when I started riding Kampus, I was like foam top, and I was like, it was the best thing ever because I wasn't getting ripped apart anymore from falling on my board because I would fall all the time. Yeah. So I actually loved the foam, and the grip didn't feel any different to me. I feel like I had lots of grip and it was fine, and I knew how to move my feet around on it, and it felt great. So I called Dwayne and I'm like, dude, we have to make a compression mold board that's going to last so that I'm not calling you for a new board every 2 weeks. And I was like pushing that hard, and he was like, no, dude, you know, like, we're not going to do that. You know, we're going to be a company. We're going to stay core to the flat deck. That's our deal. We're going to stay core to the flat deck. And I just hit me in that moment that I was like, it's not about staying core to the flat deck. It's about you're staying core to this board that doesn't cost a lot to make. And a compression mold board with, you know, properly done with a mold, it costs a lot of money. And I don't think Kampus was just making the money to warrant that, maybe, or he didn't want to have the investment in that, or who knows all the ins and outs of it. But I basically took that as we're staying core to making cheap product. Yeah. Which is not a bad thing. Look how many people that got into the sport. It's a great thing.
It's a pocket. Somebody needs to do that.
It's a great thing. It is a great thing. But for me as a rider and where I wanted to go, I was like, I can't ride for you anymore. And I literally said it in that conversation. I didn't have another board sponsor. I didn't have anything lined up. And I literally was like, I can't ride for you anymore. And in my head, I was like, I'll just ride one of Byerly's old boards. Like, I don't care. It's so good. Yeah. Because that's the one I tried. I tried the Byerly, the first concave that he did, compression mold concave that he did. And I had been riding that Hyperlight wood one before that, and we just all were collectively like knowing that it was kind of the future, and we wanted to push the future, right? Yeah. So I kind of walked, but I didn't want to burn any bridges. I I had so many boards. I had like a ridiculous amount of boards. Broken, not broken. Like he had sent me so many to keep up with how many I was breaking that I had stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of K39s and swings and all the different boards. And I sent every single one back, every one, broken or not. I packaged them all up and I said, Dwayne, I'm going to send you every board that I got because I want you to see how they're delamming, how they're falling apart. I want you to see like how this type of riding is affecting this product. And hopefully that's going to help you realize that you either want to change it or something that can benefit the company. I'm going to send this back to you. And I kept one pristine blue K39, and I still have it hanging in my garage.
Beautiful.
And I was like, that's all I need to remember, this stage of my career.
Okay, so before we move on to Gator, I got two things I want to touch on here because we have a Patreon question from Daniel Crawford Cotton, and she's wondering, any good stories from living with Lidberg at the projects back in the day? Got any good Lidberg stories?
Crap. Yeah, I mean, where to start? Lidberg were fall. Okay. Lidberg came from Minnesota with his girlfriend, and he had a place, and he rode the cable to start. And when him and his girl split is when he moved to the projects, and I started living with him. So I started living with Lidberg in a time where he was kind of down because he just broke up with his longtime girlfriend. So my first experience with Lidberg is like a lot of drinking, and he would like fall asleep to like electric music, like blaring like on full loud. And like, I remember waking up in the morning with like electric music, just like house music, like coming out of his room.
This sounds
and
miserable.
I'm like, how do you sleep to this? But yeah, no, he liked that. And I just remember because he was away from home, far away from home too. And I was far away from home. And there was one Christmas where everyone went home. And I spent a lot of holidays with BT's family, but this one in particular, Lidberg wasn't going home. So I was like, I'm going to stay with Lidberg. And him and I, everyone was gone. Even Pat was gone. It was just the two of us. And we had like a fire in a garbage can in like the backyard, and we just drank Bud Lights like that night or whatever. And we woke up, and it was like Christmas morning, us waking up, and we just went out on the ski, and it was like glass water, and he wake skated too, because he used to wake skate whenever he would ride with me, he would wake skate and we goof around, and he even landed kickflips and stuff. Like Lidberg had some tricks, and he was good. So we went out and that was Christmas morning. We did a glass butter wake skate set, and both of us are still like, it's one of the most memorable Christmases. Like Bud Light, fire in a barrel, Bud Light, and butter sets in the morning.
That's ideal.
But I think one of my favorite Lidberg stories was BT and I decided to build a treehouse one night, and Lidberg had gone downtown because Lidberg was a downtown guy. He liked going out and partying and coming back. And BT and I just decided one day we're going to build a treehouse right outside the trailer. So we hauled all this wood up, screwed it all in. We built the base platform that night. And we were so stoked, and we're like, dude, we're gonna hang out up here until Lidberg gets back, and then we're gonna scare him. So Lidberg finally, we're all night. It was so late. It was like 2 a.m. and BT and I have been in this tree like all night. And here's Lidberg comes back, and his car pulls in, and at first he gets out of the car, and we're making like little sounds like. And he's like, kind of stops. He's like looking around, and then he keeps walking, and then we're realizing that he's like. Maybe I've been inebriated, and he's just beelining for the door, kind of. And it gets to the point where we're just like, Lidberg! Like, we're just yelling at him, and even then still, he's like looking around, and then just goes inside. And it was like, the whole thing was wasted because he was like, just like completely like, what? Okay, I don't care. Goes inside.
I need to fall asleep to techno music.
Yeah. And then we were just, BT and I were just sitting up there, realizing we just sat up in a tree for like 4 hours. For like 4 hours waiting for Lidberg to come home.
For nothing. All right, so you did also send a note before we move on to Gator. And this note said, Downtown Orlando Street Jam, BT wins, girls get naked, I blow my ACL. Great spark notes there.
Man, that is a great description of that night, because not a lot else happened that night, because that was one of those setups that was like for skateboarding. It was short and steep and built as a regular set of stairs. And so if we want to hit it, then you got to pull us at like 12 miles an hour kind of thing. So it was super short and super quick, but we were pulling a bit slower and just trying to make it happen because it's like, it was a big thing, man. They closed like one end of the street and the other end of the street and had all the bars. Everyone was in on it. And you bought a ticket to get in.
Oh, shit. Like a gated thing.
Yeah. You bought a ticket to get in. And once you're in, you can go into any bar you want, buy any drink you want, and then come outside onto the street, drink it and watch the show, and then go into that bar and get a drink or this bar. It was open drinking. You didn't have to be inside.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hit it and I landed it, and BT hit it and landed it, but there was not a lot of other people. I think maybe Grubby landed it too. There's not a lot of people.
I talked to somebody before, and they were
that
like,
even
no
landed.
fucking way I'm hitting that thing. Like,
Yeah.
nah,
There were other people that were just like, no.
Yeah.
But BT and I were rail guys, right? So we were like expected, and we were also like, we'll hit anything, you know, we can make it happen. And I can't believe BT ended up front boarded backside 90 out. It was basically he did a backside 180 out of the pool while touching the rail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was still sick. It was still looked good. Like BT makes everything look good, and he still made that look good and good. Like, cause like it was a cool thing, and a lot of money and time went into it. It just was like, it just sucks that like, and this is why like we built Wakestock. We built Wakestock for so many years, and that's why Wakestock was so good. Cause like they're built by riders. As soon as you got like riders building stuff that are good builders, then you got something because they understand, you know, what we need.
I don't know if you saw the X Games shit, but like that's a good example in the modern day of it. Where
Yeah,
like,
and then like
it worked out well.
And then what do you get when you build it right? What do you get? You get everyone's best stuff.
Yeah.
You don't get someone hanging on for dear life. You get what they're capable of. You get to see what they're capable of, and that's what's good for the sport. So yeah, and this happened at some toe jams too. In some of these magazines you can open up these articles, but like, so it came time. So I hit it and landed it, and BT landed the backside 180, and I was like, I gotta, you know, what I'm gonna beat that with, and I was trying to shove off of this stupidly short rail, which was essentially like touch and shove, and Ron actually just sent me the footage. I'd never even seen the footage before. I watched it the other day. I actually thought I undershoved and missed the board and went 1 foot on, 1 foot off. But it came all the way around, and I put my feet on. My 1 foot just slipped off. I was in between boards. I think I was riding Grubb's board, which was a big board for me. But we needed big boards because the impact,
12 miles an hour too.
The impact was so strong, right? So it was great to be on the big board. But I shoved out, I slipped off, and my knee got bent up. And yeah, I lost my ACL right before I was, you know, going to have my first pro model, essentially. Like, I didn't even have my first pro model yet, and I just lost my knee. But I remember, like, it was like that sledgehammer pain. Like, knee injuries are weird, where it's like that sledgehammer pain, and then it slowly fades out. So in, like, 40 minutes, I'm having a couple beers, and I'm, like, joining the party. And, yeah, then they went, I think it was not a bikini contest. It was a wet t-shirt contest that we had.
This sounds like classic early 2000s shit.
We had a wet t-shirt contest in the start pool after the riding was done. That just turned into like, it was just like a get naked party. And then it was like, and this happened at Toe Jam too, in the start ponds, where it was like, as soon as one girl did it, then it's like,
It's a competition.
How do you win now without doing it? So then everyone does.
It's like the kickflip, right?
Yeah. And it benefits everyone, I think, really, because I don't know. I didn't talk to anyone whose night that didn't, you know, improve. It was great. Beautiful women. I mean, what's better than that? It was great. But like, yeah, that's a vibe. And it was like right on the main street, downtown Orlando, like outside partying. It was such a cool event.
Well, you hit all the bullet points on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was great. And kudos to those girls for just, you know, really making a guy with a blown knee forget about the fact that he just blew his knee.
A couple beers and back to normal.
Yeah, it was great.
All right, let's talk Gator then. Gator boards. So campus over, they're out. Gator boards. What's up? How does this happen? What's the deal? What's the transition into this?
Yeah, that was reluctant for me because like I love the campus guys and I love that feel of being on a team with guys that I thought were really cool. But I was looking for compression molded boards, and so Lidberg had been dealing with Double Up, Lidberg and Jeff McKee, and they had been doing, Double Up had been talking about they've been doing a wake skate. They had a wake skate in their line, and they were calling it was butterboards is what it was, and it had like a dark, kind of almost black but not quite bottom, and then a white top. And the ads, they've been doing the ads. Lidberg and Jeff had been filling in as wake skaters for the ads. So
it's a funny visual to me.
Yeah. So I got, Lidberg was like, well, like I think Lidberg helped set it up where it was like I got in touch with Butterboards, and then they were super stoked, and they sent me a new prototype of a new shape that they were going to run. And it had more, because the original Butterboard had really sharp edges. And this one, they were all rounded off. And I was like, loved it. It was awesome. It was small, but it was awesome. I loved that board. And it was like all white. It was like PBT. It was like a hardened white material. And it was just indestructible. This board was like bulletproof. And that's what I was like, that's what I've been wanting for so long. And I love this part. I got kickflips like consistent on this. Well, yeah, I guess because before this, I learned kickflips on a Kampus first. And that just reminded me of my first kickflip story is kind of a funny story. It was on the K39, and it was right after like you need a kickflip, and so Pat was like BT and Clint Tompkins were coming out, and they were Pat took us out in the boat, and it was the three of us. It was Clint, I think, had landed kickflips. BT had landed maybe one or two, and I hadn't yet to land one. And Pat's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. 3 tries and then in the boat. 3 tries and then in the boat. And we're going to go until someone sticks a kickflip. So I think Clint went first, 3 falls. Then BT went, 3 falls. And then I was up, and I think I just whiffed. I've been practicing them. I've been trying them. I think I just whiffed like 1 or 2. And then turned around the cove, and we were coming out of the cove into Lake 1. And I just edged out, popped, kicked, boltzed, and it was like the dopest feeling. I was like so pumped. And I look up, and all I see is BT like jump out the side of the boat, and Pat, who was driving at the same time, like they both just dove out of the boat, and Clint Tompkins is sitting there in the middle seat, emotionless, as the boat coasts like to a stop, and I sink down into the water, and BT and Pat swim up to me, and we're just in the water like, like it was just this like total bro, like family moment. And I'll never forget like sticking it, and then like looking up, and like the 2 ejected, and then and Clint and I are just like, all I'm doing is looking at Clint, and we're just sinking. I'm just sinking into the water, and that was great. Yeah. So and then on the butterboard is when I got kickflips like consistent. Yeah. It was a board that I felt at home on, and then they came to me, and going inside out was allowing me to work on the flick element of it a little bit more, and the pop element a little bit less. And that's what helped me start to get it really consistent. And then I took that butterboard to Wakestock 2004, that prototype, and it was right after Toe Jam, because that Toe Jam I rode a Kampus. And then by the time Wakestock came around in August or later, it was I was on that prototype, and I rode, because Wakestock's like, back then it was like bigger and better every year. And they saw that we did a winch stunt at Toe Jam. They're like, we want a winch stunt. We have to have a winch stunt. And at Waseca, it was all sand, and we decided to build it into the beach. and they did the stair setup with like a flat rail and then a kind of a curving like just down rail on the one side. And everyone was there and everyone rode, and it ended up being a rider judged thing because all the judges were over on like the boat side of it. And I don't think any of those judges were like, I want to judge winch, because it was like not something that was really done yet or whatever. So we just agreed that it would be rider voted, and every rider that hit it would get to cast a vote on who they thought won.
Yeah.
And it ended up being me. I think I stuck a shove on the rail, and then I did like a back lip and stuff. And there was Grubby was like toe side 50-50 in the one rail, and BT did this big ollie like boned frontside 180 over the one rail, which was super sick. And I think he was the only one that was like ollieing out of it. So in the end, it ended up being like between BT and me, and Guillaume was going around. He asked everyone to cast the votes, and then he went to Pat, and he was like, who do you think? You know, who do you think's got it? And Pat was like, you can't ask me to pick between my boys. Like, you can't do that. And he's like, why? Well, what's everyone saying? He's like, well, everyone's saying, a lot of people are saying BT, but more people are saying Doyle. And he's like, well, then you don't have to talk to me. Just give it to Doyle or whatever. And I was funny because I was just talking to BT about this, and he was like, yeah. He's like, I remember I was like pissed. And then Pat came over and said like two things to me. And then I was like, okay, yeah, let's just go get drunk. I think like what he was saying was, I was like, why? What did he say? Like, Doyle's never going to win. This is Doyle's first win. He's never going to win anything ever again. Just give it to him. Or like, what was that conversation? It had to have been something like that where BT was like, yeah, you know, you're right. Let's just go get drunk and like make it cool. But what's funny is that night, if you see this shot, there's a shot of me back lipping that rail, and Scott's in the bottom pond holding a camera over his head, and BT's there, and he's got a straw hat on. And it's maybe one of my favorite shots of all, because it's super sick. Like, and I'm like nice teed up back lip, but the shorts that I'm wearing are not mine, and the shoes that I'm wearing are not mine. And that's a testament to the night before. We got super sloppy. And that was the Wakestock days were like that. They were like
big party.
They were
some riding going on too.
They were a constant landing pond at Orlando Street Jam, where you end up with no clothes in the morning, and you can't find them, and you have to borrow people's clothes to hit the stunt in the end. But yeah, they were great days, and that was back when Wakestock was like one headliner band, one host bar, and we all went to that bar, and it was $10 a night campsites. So all the core wake fans, it was accessible to them.
Yeah,
everyone can come, $10 a night to stay. And I remember by the third year of Wakestock, it was like there were kids that were like, I didn't even see any wakeboarding. Like the campsites ended up putting video screens up, and they had like raves and dance parties going on in like the Sunshine Camp Park and like this other campsite park. And these Waseca, this little Waseca town. Like, I remember the first year we went there, it was like, we were like, we need to book our rooms. And they were like, oh, no, there's nothing going on, because they were all about the beach, right? There's just some little wakeboard tournament on the river. You don't have to book ahead for that. Like, everything's going to be fine. And then we were like, oh, no, we'll book ahead. And the first year we went to Waseca was like a tornado. Like, we came through there, and it was like we dwarfed all that town's numbers. Never seen numbers like that. Like, May 24 was their biggest thing ever before that. And then Wakestock just dwarfed everything and wrecked that poor little town, and then gone. And then next year it's like quadruple up the cops, and like, let's get on top of this thing, and it's not going to happen again. We're ready this time. And then it's like it happened again. You cannot control it. Like, people were crazy. And then by the third year, like, I think the campsites and everything, they were just like, let's just get in on it. Let's rent some screens. Let's be the dopest campsite, and all this stuff. And after that, it got voted out council, they cited public urination as the number one complaint. Like Wasaga Beach smelled like a toilet for 2 weeks after Wakestock was there.
No way, no fucking way it did. No.
I remember like the beer garden it was like right in the sand, and they kept pushing the fence like into the water more and more and more, and like where the rails were, it was posted right in the sand, and you're watching the riders go by like right over your head. And
yeah,
if someone blows out, they're throwing them a beer.
Yep.
And they had like a transport truck of Coors Light tall boys, and it was like 12 o'clock. They're like, get another transport here. Like, we're out. Like, they had to get that transport out of there.
Yeah.
And it was all like wedged into everything. And then another one in, because it was like, there was like over 30,000 people there.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
What happened to Wakestock?
That's a big story.
You know anything?
You
gotta know.
I do know.
What happened?
I do know a lot.
You build it up like
it's all hearsay. It's all hearsay.
Yeah, sure it is.
It's all hearsay. But so after that, Wasaga, like those were the best years, I think. If you ask me, those were the best years. But they're home after that because it started in Bala and then went to Wasaga, and then they went to Toronto Island after that. And this changed. This really changed the face of the tournament. Because you got to understand that Wakestock, this is so funny to me. SBC Media is a magazine company, and they have SBC Snow and Skate and Surf, and they have all these magazines, and they wanted a wakeboard magazine. So they thought, well, what's the best way to promote this new magazine we have? We're going to throw a little tournament, and we're going to call it Wakestock. It's going to be in Bala, and this will promote our new magazine. And that little tournament got too big for Bala, and then went to Wasaga, and then got too big for Wasaga, and then went to Toronto Island. And the big difference between Toronto Island and Wasaga was the $10 a night campsites are gone, and it's now $300 a night hotel.
You got to make it acceptable to the people, man.
Yeah, and
accessible.
And the island, you had to ride the ferry to get out there.
Yeah, barrier to entry.
So you're gonna ferry 30,000 people out and then 30,000 people back, and Wasaga was like one headliner band, right? Where they tried to turn it into like a music festival. They're hiring 50 bands, a motocross show, skateboard contest, make it they turn it into a music festival. I remember going there and I'm like looking at the people walking around, and it's like the core wake crowd was gone. And it was like cliques of people there to see their band. Because there's 50 bands, like that's a lot of different music people, and they're like, there's goth people walking around. There's like all these neat, and I remember hearing someone be like, what the hell is wakeboarding? And it was a different vibe. But it was so expensive. Everything was so expensive to get the material there, so expensive to build everything, that I think that maybe SBC, they lost money in the first year. And then it's like, okay, we're trying to go bigger. We're trying to become something else. So this is the hearsay part. Like, I don't really know, but it's like, well, let's double down. Because in the Wasaga years, I remember that even the first year in Toronto Island, I was home, and my dream girl was single and I was single, and like we met up, and all her friends were my friends from back then as well. I got them all VIP passes, all gold wristbands. All I had to do was be like, hey, I got, 5 chicks here, want gold wristbands. Oh, fucking yeah, boom, done. But then the next year on Toronto Island was like, no, no, you're not. Like, no, you don't get any. Like, they didn't even want to give me a gold wristband. And then it was a different vibe because I think maybe they lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then they went to try to double down because it's just like, oh, maybe we just got to put the time in. And then it's like, and then it was like the third year, it was like, well, let's cut rider pay. Let's cut this. Let's cut all the things that got you there.
Why does when something's sick, it's like everybody does whatever they can to make it not sick, and then wonder why it's not sick anymore?
Yeah, I don't know.
Come on. Not rocket
so,
science.
what's really funny is, so that little tournament that they threw to kick off their new Wake magazine ended up like crippling the entire company.
Yeah.
Not just the Wake thing. And that's like, I don't know, the ins and outs of it all, but by
More
the
or
end of
less,
it,
yeah.
by the end of it, they were shopping around like free locations to try to have it, and it ended up on like Collingwood Harbor with a concrete wall and floating like random rails and like.
Should have gone back to the second place.
Not
What was it called?
What
was it?
Wasaga, man.
Wasaga.
It
That
was
place
all
sounds
sand.
sick. Yeah,
It was all sand. It
Bring
was
it back
so
there.
easy, so easy to build. Totally. Toe Jam went there one year.
There you go.
So we all got to go back to Wasaga, and we did a toe jam there. It was
Run
great.
it back.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk Gator because I have a note on here from. You came off that first pro win, rider judge, good moment. Great,
yeah, and that was on the
great
butterboard.
time.
That was on the butterboard prototype. Yeah, got the win at Wakestock, and I got my Wakestock belt, which was like everyone's favorite thing. You know, this is a wearable trophy. So like, if you have one, you're at the bar that night, like, woo!
Yeah.
And the girls are like, oh, you know, because you're one of the guys wearing a belt.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah, 100%. You have a note. I mean, you sent me a big note before this for the listeners why I'm saying this. And this thing, it says Aaron Grace ego, Hyperlight full. Explain the Aaron Grace ego part. I want to hear about that.
Oh, I didn't want to do anything.
Oh, please, because you don't have to worry about Aaron Grace listening because he's told me he doesn't listen. So it's okay. He won't listen to this.
Okay, good. So I'm hyped. First pro win. I'm on this prototype. I'm going back to Surf Expo. I'm expecting to, see the real like board, not the prototype anymore. Like it's premiering now at Surf Expo. I get there. I find out not only is Butterboard out of business, but Double Up, North American Double Up is no longer gone. So I'm standing there, coming off my first pro win, holding a board I love, with no home. So I'm like, well, what do I do now? So the Hyperlight full thing is just me in my head. They have Byerly, they have Grub, they have BT. What the heck do they need me for? Byerly and BT are my crew members. They ride the projects. Like there is no need for Hyperlight to sign me. Their team was massive. So that wasn't even really an option, I don't think, to approach. So I was thinking Liquid Force. And at this time, Cassette was kind of disbanding based on what was happening with them with like 484 stole their shape and like that. Just like they were losing Reed and Danny, and Liquid Force picked both of them up, and I was like, oh, Liquid's trying to build a good skate team, so that was kind of the first place that I kind of thought to go, and I just remember the conversation where I went up and I was like, hey, like what's that look like? What's riding for Liquid Force kind of look like? And I just remember. He was just kind of like not looking at me while we were talking. It was just kind of like anything else is more important than this person like talking to me. And he was just kind of like, yeah, like you can have a spot on the team for sure, but there's no room in the budget. It's just be flow. You just be on flow and it'd be what it is. But it wasn't a no or anything, but it was just more the vibe where
Bad vibe.
Yeah. It was just like, okay, this guy, he doesn't give a shit about me, which is fine. Like, he's signing some big guns off of Cassette, and I known that Drew McGuckin was leaving Cassette, and he had just signed with Gator. So I actually went and I talked with Drew, about Gator, and Drew was like, Gator's sick and he's got the financial backing, and if you sign with him, and do shit, he's going to take care of you, and you're not going to have to worry about, battling for anything if you're putting in the work. If you're doing it, it's going to be a good home. And cuz I was like nervous to talk to, I think that's why I went to Drew first, cuz I was like nervous to talk to Gator, cuz Gator was like one of those like Byerly guys where he's like, well, I'd gotten really comfortable with Byerly, but I hadn't talked to Gator very much at all. So I went up and I talked to Gator, and they at Surf Expo that year, they had prison. They're all wearing like orange jumps. They had this whole prison like vibe going for their booth. And so I was talking to him, and he was just so cool and so real. And after the conversation I had with Gator, I felt like, holy shit, like, why didn't I just go and do that first? because everything he said was right. Like he was like, the Picket house was right down the road from the projects. They were close to us. And that was the Gator board's like team hangout house. It was one of Gator's houses, but it was where the core of the team would hang out and ride. He was like, heck yeah. You know, like we'd love to have you on the team. Like, and they just had wood. They had concave boards at the time, but they were just wood. And so I was like, okay, that's awesome. You know, that's wicked. I'm going to, you know, talk around and shop around a little bit. And I kind of walked away from that conversation like, holy shit, like that's awesome. And Gator's such a wicked dude. And I knew the other guys on the team, and I was like, that feels like it would be home for me. And I kind of walked away, and I did some other stuff. And then it started to just weigh harder and harder and harder on me that I was like, get back over there and say, hell yeah, to Gator. So I went back over and I was like, I will 100% sign with you, but I want to make a compression molded board and I want to make it indestructible. Like my mission is to make a wake skate that will never break. And he was like, dude, whatever you want. Hell yeah. You have a pro model, whatever you want. You can do the graphic, complete creative control. It's all yours, whatever you want. And I was like, holy crap. Like this should have been conversation one again, feeling, but like I was stoked and like we set up the deal and I was like, I had the butterboard prototype. I was like, I basically want this board and I changed a few things. And I flew out to California. I sat down with Rob Hyatt and we went through all the CAD systems and we set the board, we built the board and then I went home and I got on the computer and I drew because I know how to use a computer now. And I used my drawing Illustrator stuff and I drew the board graphic and I based it off of King Kai's planet, like off from Dragon Ball. He has that little planet and it's like a little road, a little house and a little tree. And it's like a tiny planet. And I wanted my board to be like that, where it's like a little half planet with a little rail, the project's trailer, me chilling, playing games. And like that was kind of my whole world, you know? And I pitched the graphic and they loved it and we rolled with it. And we went PBT and I was like, I want PBT top and bottom. And they're like, they made the mold and then they went to press it. And they were like, we can't use the PBT on the top because the corners wrinkle. And because it's such thick stuff, it's such hard material that the corners wobble and we can't have that. And I was like, no, like we're doing it top and bottom. I don't care about the wrinkles. I wrinkle for days. I don't care if it wrinkles. I care if it doesn't break. So it went to market with the wrinkly corners because I was like, because they wanted to do like more of like a wakeboard material top. Which once I made my next shape later on, 2 years later, and they turned my board into the Impala, which was Gator's car, and it just became a generic skate in the Gator line. They did a wakeboard top instead of the PBT top on it, so it could have a smooth top.
Yeah.
It made it lighter, which I didn't like either. I wanted the weight of the PBT, and we used like a very high density foam. That was the other thing that I was like pushing for, was a bit more weight, and we compressed like all this high density foam down into the core. And I was super happy with that board. And then that board, I just went to the moon on that board. Like I was like, everything I was doing on that Butterboard's prototype, like just became even cooler because it was my board, my graphic. And then I was feeling like this is it. You know, I did it. I made the journey to my pro model board. I felt like a pro rider. And I was like, all the people that were like, what, do you think you're going to move to Florida and become a pro rider?
Got a board with my name on it.
Yeah, like I was like, and in my head I was like, yes, I do think that. Like you obviously don't, but by the way you said that, but yeah, you know.
All right, I think before we talk some more wakeskating, we move on to Slings Hot Takes, which is a rapid fire segment from Slingshot. And so I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions and you answer them to the best of your ability. So we got first one, favorite wake part.
Favorite wake part?
Mm-hmm. Wake skate part, I guess.
Oh, wake skate part?
It could
or
be
wake-
either if you
wakeboard?
want. I don't know if you watched a lot of wakeboard parts. One of each.
Well, for me, like, I think Mayday's the film that like hooked me, but it was an overall vibe. It was like a Gator section that's crazy, and him going over the mountain and that 540 and his front flip to fakie that he blew his knee on was insane, and Scott hitting rocks and I always like really thought Scott was cool because all his sections he's always sliding docks, always hitting rails, and he was never just that guy that's like doing wake tricks. Where a lot of other guys, their whole section was like wake tricks, and Scott was always like hitting obstacles, and even in like a setting like Powell, he was hitting rocks and stuff like that. I thought that was cool, but I feel like for Mayday it was like an overall love of the whole film, and I think maybe more Natural Born Thrillers. I think Thomas Harrell's section in Natural Born Thrillers where there's that long, like, up ramp into the mid landing pool is like 2001. And then there was this long mellow, and he ollies out and front boards it. And he's like just wearing a t-shirt, and it's like a flat deck, a super skate. And he's like the front board in general, I think was just not done a lot back then. And then his riding is section 2. I remember there's like a butter slide in there where he's just butter sliding forever and ever and ever and ever. And at the end, he like does a little ollie backside 270 out. So I think maybe Thomas's section in Natural Born Thrillers is like is a pretty iconic as far as like, because I was wake skating at that time when I saw that. So I think that was like, that grabbed me more than any section.
If there was one rider you could bring back in the game, who would it be and why?
One rider back. So a rider that was in the game and is not in the game anymore. I mean, I think this was already said though. I think Phil Bassino, like, it would be crazy to see what he would have done with a longer career, because he won the first ever pro wake skate tour, and he was that guy that he just boltzed everything. Well, how is everything boltzed?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other ones. Like, there was a lot of kids. Like, sometimes there'd be like a random 13-year-old kid that would just be on tour, and it's like, where the heck? Who is this kid? And he's like got like 3 flip tricks, and it's like, what the heck? Where did that kid come from? And then like maybe he got a girlfriend, and then like gone.
Yeah, moved on.
I don't know.
It doesn't take much sometimes. Most underrated wake skater.
Underrated. All the wake skaters I know were rated very well. I want to say like, but maybe this is wrong, but I want to say like Andrew Pastura and Austin Pastura. I feel like, but maybe that's just because I don't know. I got out of it when they were getting in, and I don't know how much like companies like swooned over them, but they should have been.
I think they might have been pretty swooned.
Yeah, they were.
If they were, maybe not Austin, Andrew. I feel like Andrew's like goated.
Yeah, no, he is. But I meant like paycheck wise.
Oh
like,
yeah,
I meant like the big companies like running them down because like they deserved it. You know, like, but I think that they're such core guys that maybe they didn't care. Maybe it takes a certain combination of like pursuing and passion to get those big dollar amounts. And I don't know, maybe they did.
Andrew was on Nike. That's got to be pretty
good.
Well,
okay. Well, then good. Like, hopefully.
But I don't know.
I hope that he did. I hope that they did, because like they deserved it, man. Like, I only met, I don't even know that I met Austin too much, but I met Andrew a handful of times, and he was one of those guys that, along with Nick, that made me like happy to retire. Like, I was like, the wake skating is in such good hands that I can go off now. I can leave, and they've got it. They're and I think I was like, there's no way that they're gonna take it in that direction. Like, I know that they wanted to. I wanted it to go in that direction. They wanted to take it in the direction that it went. But I think maybe I thought that the boat stranglehold was just too strong for it to go in that direction.
You mean like what, winching,
Yeah.
street style stuff, rail stuff?
Battle Falls, like what Reed did, like Reed Hansen, Nick, like all those guys, like they had a vision and wanted to take it there. And I was like, those are the people that I was like, man, I'm so happy that these people exist, because it makes me get to like go off and like, you know, have a life outside of wake skating and not worry about the sport that I love so much, because these dudes are like
dogs.
They're like it, you know? So yeah, I never know. I felt like Reed was taken care of. He had Fox, and he had good sponsors, and I felt like Nick was taking really good care of.
Yeah.
And I just, maybe Andrew and
you would probably know better than me. I don't know.
I don't know, and maybe that's why I'm saying those guys, because I feel like,
well, Andrew and Austin are insane. So
they deserve like the financial backing of a core company or a legit company that had the backing that they deserved. Anyway.
Next one. Can a butt checked trick be an NBD?
I don't. A butt check trick to me is like, sure, why not? But that's at this point in my life, and the boys cheer me on. Like if I make it to the beach for the boys, it counts.
Hey, yeah, I mean,
I can roll up on my belly as long as I get to the beach.
Yeah,
like they're cheering and they're stoked and they think it counts. And part of me thinks that they think it's better than the bowls, because you had to fight to get to the beach. You didn't just get the cruisy ride. Easy. Yeah. You battled back up onto your board, and now I've watched some old stuff with them where there's a shot in All or Nothing, Grubb's section in All or Nothing, where he does like I think it's a shove body varial on the lip and lands, and then does like a bat. He's like on his back and he's like bouncing, and then he like fights it back up to his feet, only to just duff his front toe and get ejected at the front. And
that's
like
instant karma right there.
Yeah, and they're like, oh no, and like, oh, they got like I think they think the drag and then the save it is cool. It's cool.
It is cool. But
so that's a fresh perspective. But from a perspective that we came up in,
legitimacy,
it was too many people were focused on like, we have to make this shit look legit. We can't make this shit look kooky. If we make this shit look kooky, then no one's going to like it and no one's going to like us. So let's make our shit tight. Make everything look, and that's a skater mentality. That's a skateboard mentality.
Yeah.
Like a little bobble and a skateboarder is not happy. So I think that comes from that mindset where it's like perfection is everything, because you're trying to deliver the sport to everyone in a way that looks appealing.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone thinks a butt check looks appealing for the trick. It's cool.
Pretty well put.
It's cool that you saved it and you're still riding.
Well, because in towed water, like, it sucks. You got to turn everything around if you're behind a boat or a jet ski or whatever. So if you can just stand back up, reset, try it again, it's cool.
Yeah.
You save time.
Yeah. So but it's not, it doesn't make the trick look good. And that's paramount, I think, for a lot of people in skateboarding and wakeskating.
Best female rider steez.
Ashley Becker.
That was the quickest one you've had on here of all of them. All right. Contest or video parts?
Oh, totally video parts all day long.
Easy.
And I'll explain that. Scott was like, he won some contests early on, and he won a few throughout, but it was not what he was known for. Darren Shapiro won a lot of contests, and it was what he was known for. But the second he couldn't win contests anymore, gone. And that's gone like you signed a 3-year $1 million contract, and then at the end of that 3-year $1 million contract, you're struggling to pull boards. But Byerly, and I'm not trying to throw anyone on the bus, I'm just saying conceptual, example to answer the question. Byerly is like, and Shapiro's a legend to be remembered forever as well. But like Byerly's pulling signature series boats, not because he won all the contests that year. He won it because like he made, again, and this falls into, you make this sport look appealing. So like Darren was incredible at winning contests, but Scott made the sport look cool, and that's what companies, I think, want. They want the guy winning contests when he's doing it, but if the image isn't there as well, then it's not going to hold up the way that a person that has style and has presence, like Scott does, that's going to hold up forever. It's the same in the UFC. There's fighters that like, if you're winning, you're on top, you're great. But if you lose, then you start to lose that prowess. But there's other fighters with win or lose, it doesn't matter because every time they fight, it's exciting.
Yeah. Derek Lewis.
Yeah. And then look at like there's Derek Lewis. Is
that not a pretty good one? Like,
that's where I would have went.
But yeah, he wins or loses. I'm watching Derek
totally.
Lewis fight.
It's an exciting fight, or like a Nate Diaz. He's not like an upper echelon fighter.
He's gonna last all the rounns.
But he's a mush head, and he'll give it his go all nonstop.
Yeah.
So I think that's telling where it's like the longevity in a sport. If it's tied to one thing, and you no longer have that thing, then you're out, kind of thing. But if it's tied to video parts of magazines, it's like image based.
It's interesting. Like if you think about a kid going to buy a board, are they going to go and buy a board and like say that like a hypothetical, they're next to their friend and the friend's like, why are you picking out that board? I just never picture the kid being like, this guy wins all the contests. That's why I'm buying his board.
Yeah.
I mean, there are kids, I am sure, that do that, and it's a totally valid reason if you want to. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if that's the majority of people buying boards are buying it because he wins everything.
Yeah. And maybe. I think that's true. Where it's the companies though will be like, we want to sponsor the guy that's winning everything, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that contests get you the big paychecks, but dope video parts get you remembered forever.
That's a great sentence. I think we'll leave that section one of that. Best style on a wakeskate.
On a best style? Oh, man, that's easy. BT.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Right. I mean, BT was the reason why it was easy to never get a big head. Like, if you ride with BT all the time, it's easy to stay humble.
Yeah.
Because, like, he just makes everything look so good. Everything he does looks so good. He's one of those riders that you look across the lake, and it's like, oh, that's BT.
Yeah.
You can tell. And it was like, he was similar to, like, Lidberg in the fact that because I didn't have a very big ollie, like, and BT's ollie was big. That's one of the things early on I remember that he had such a big ollie, and Lidberg too. But he also had a really big switch ollie, and Lidberg as well. And I always respected that a lot, where it was like they were both really good riders, both switch and regular.
Yeah.
And I think that really makes you a better rider. So I always push, even the snowboarding with the boys. I'm like, okay, switch run this time, and we go down the hill switch, because like if you don't think about it, you won't do it.
Yeah.
But all it takes is like 1 or 2 runs a night to get you comfortable, and then it becomes more and more comfortable to the point where it gets undistinguishable, and that's how it should be, because you're going to be a stronger rider if that's how you train.
100%. Last one, most illegal trick.
Most illegal trick, 50-50.
Really? On a wake skate, the 50-50?
No. No, not just wake skate. I think,
Or just say, okay. Explain.
Actually, I think more on a wakeboard than a wake skate.
You think the 50-50 is illegal? I want to hear about this.
Well, I think the 50-50 is what you do the first time you hit a rail. And then I think after that, every time you do a 50-50, you just miss an opportunity to actually do something cool. No, I mean, like, for a wakeboard, it's like, if you 50-50, you miss the opportunity for a dope nose press.
Sure.
You miss the opportunity to have style. How do you style out a 50-50, by the way? I don't think you can.
I have never thought about it like this, and that's really interesting.
Yeah, so for me, 50-50 is a great thing to do the first time you hit a rail.
You get her done, yeah.
You just ride onto that rail, ride across, and ride off, and there you go. But to, like, actively be landing in a 50-50, then why wasn't it a nose press? Why wasn't it a tail press? Like, it would have been cooler if it was.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot cooler if it was.
Be a lot cooler if you did.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It's not illegal, but I just think
that's a great answer.
I think every time I see a 50-50, I just think it was a missed opportunity for something cooler.
I love that answer. Thank you to Slingshot for those Slings Hot Takes. I want to talk about, before we talk about leaving wake skating, because I know we got a lot to talk about still, but I want to talk about these two things that are on the table right now, because we have, first let's talk about the nubs or whatever. I mean, these are Gators, right?
Yeah.
Gator. From back then, and there's some cool tech in these for the wake skate nerds. You got
a
drain hole on the bottom.
Yeah.
Or I guess
he did them well. Like, all the Gator products were super well done, and these are no exception to that. Like, nubs became a thing, and they got a little popular, and they still are. And Gator wanted to throw his hat in the ring, and this was that.
They got drain holes on the bottom, or drain hole on the bottom, some drain channels on
super
top.
Strong, double screw. They were a little fat and maybe a little tall. Like, there was a bit of drag on them.
Sure.
I was never big into the nub scene. And I think that wasn't because nubs aren't cool or they don't make, like, a locked in slice is sick.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that I wasn't a good enough rider to be able to, like, leave my what I was trying to work. I was always trying to work on, for me, it was like flip tricks were my Everest all the time.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I was good on rails and I was always comfortable on rails and at home on rails, and I would go after anything on rails. But I felt like if I was going to be an actual, like, rider with any caliber, I needed to really up my water game big time. And I wasn't going to be jumping the wake. So I was going to do that through flip tricks. And that's why I have, even to this day, I have, like, a special relationship with kick flips, where it's like, I need that trick to, like, to continue to feel like a good rider.
Yeah.
And I think that this stuff was cool.
What's this? What's this that you're picking
So
up
this
right
is when Byerly did his lock, because we were all working together. We were always just, even though we were on other teams and everything, like, we were P unit. We were the projects crew. Like, we were teammates in our crew. So when Byerly was working on the lock, Kampus was like, "Hey, should we do something we're gonna do?" And I don't know who designed this, but I definitely tested it. And I put it on my board, and it's in genetics there. There's a nose press in there and maybe a tail press. And I think it ran in Alliance. There's a shot in Alliance of me, like, it's just like 50-50 in the rail, but up on the nose. Right? So it gave it a little bit of flavor, but it was just a weight. Like, it felt like you just had an anchor thrown in the water. Didn't go anywhere. This never went to market. It was just something that Byerly's lock went to market, and it was cool, and it did its thing, and he got the cover wakeboarding, I think, a locked in nose down one of the toe jam gaps, and it was cool. It was,
because that's been talked about a bit, and it's pretty cool to see in the
Yeah.
flesh here in person. So
yeah, and the nubs, these are just, I just think that this is just a testament to, like, Gator boards. They were just making high quality stuff.
yeah, those look like, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Machine. And I have a red pair and a blue pair, like they did.
colorful.
I never. I think I set up the red ones and I used them a little bit.
Yeah.
But
All right, well, let's talk about leaving wake skating, because you said that you felt like it was left in good hands in a sense of some riders. So, like, let's talk about the whole The whole thing, the whole deal, moving back to Canada.
Well, yeah, I got afforded to do a lot of things that I only like dreamed about. I didn't think that actually happen, like traveling and filming for Transgression, that the full part. Like I took that whole year off and did that. And I had my early like surprise cover, but then I also had my, 10-page interview like cover that I earned, with SBC. And I really felt like I had done it all. And I traveling, like when I signed with UGP, and I got to do my own shoe with them. It was great. And then that led me, our markets were huge in Japan for Gator and for UGP.
Really?
So I would do 2-week promo tours in Japan where I would meet up with the Japanese distributor Kaz, and we would hit these spots with these locals, the Ton Wakeskate crew, and so many other spots where we would there would be these like super core guys, and they'd be pushing UGP and Gator, and I'd go do promos, and Kaz would like sleep in the van, and then I would come and I would sleep in the van, and he would drive to the next spot that night, and we would just go all over. And I got to see, it was such a beautiful country and such cool people. Wakeskating just afforded me like all these great opportunities to travel and to meet all these great people. But when it came time to come to the end, I think it was, I almost gave it all up halfway through. Like when I was home and my dream girl was single and I was single for that Wakestock, like I almost didn't go back.
You say it in Canada.
I almost retired, and that was after my first pro model board, and I had to go back for Expo, and my signature series shoe with UGP was premiering, and my second pro model with Gator boards was premiering, and I went back for that. And then when I got there was a big pool stunt that I was shredding, and Ron comes up with his camera and he's like, "We're going to be traveling around the world for the next year, filming this, team video. Randall's back, and, we're going after it. What do you think about that?" And then with the shoe and my board, I was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. But I was like wanting to, I wanted a family, and I wanted to have I was older. I'm an older guy. Like I got in late. Like I didn't even know what wakeskating was until I was 19, So I was a late bloomer. I wasn't a prodigy kid. And I think that maybe that's why Scott was always the most important rider to me, because I saw him and he was doing it, and he had a wife and he had kids, and he was still doing it. He was still out there. I remember when the Atlanta, it was like the second pro tour stop, we went out there, and it was like, there was like 56 people or something like that, and only like 24 spots. And it was like the heats. It was like the first heats. It was like top 2 is going to go on to finals, but top 2 is also going to be who qualifies for pro tour for the year. And BT, Scott, and I all went out there, and we all qualified that year. And like Scott's still there, still doing it, still getting top 2 in a pro heat, and legitimately qualifying to go on tour. I always thought that was so much cooler than anyone's new trick, anyone's new thing they had going on. Because like, that's how I pictured myself. I pictured myself like older and a dad, and like still wanting to do it. So yeah. And I remember that top 2 in the heat that I was in, a young Matt Manzari was 3rd in that heat. And I remember and he was so bummed. And I was like, dude, like, you're so young, like, don't stress. Like, and I was like, there's wild card spots too. Like, you can still come on tour. Like, you can still be a part of it. And like, you're young, dude, you're going to kill it. Like, don't stress about, this is just a minor hiccup. And it was all because, the kickflip was my linchpin. I hit it, I'm in, and I miss it, I'm not, kind of thing. So I was like, I just got lucky. I got my kickflip today. But yeah, so it was to go get married. It was because I was at the Utah Boat Show, because we did the Utah Boat Show every year too, which was super dope. You go and we built the winch stunts inside the boat show, and we put up bleachers, and we put people right beside the start, right beside the pools, and we put wake skating right in front of people, and it was great. I remember doing all the morning spots with the morning news shows. I'm on like breakfast television, like, you know, this guy, and I had this big beard, and everyone was calling me like the prophet and stuff. They all had this nickname for me, and they were getting like, I remember I was getting wrecked. I was like 2 weeks, like we built it, and it was like 2 weeks of the demoing, but building and like demoing it all, but I had it dialed by the time everyone else came. I felt bad for everyone else that comes for the boat show, and then I'd been hitting this thing. I built it with Pat, and then I've been hitting it for 2 weeks, so I have it dialed, and I'm just crushing it. And this is another thing that this footage never went. I still have this footage. I'll do a post.
Yeah.
I'll do a post. I clap. You've got me to like reach back and
there we go. That's what we like.
But that was such a great thing, and putting it right in front of people's. And we sold so many wake skates at that. And that's also I asked Pat's wife out for him at that event as well.
How kind of you.
Because Pat, we were working, and we were staying at Benny's, like we were sleeping in a college dorm, like on the floor, and Pat's like, he's like, I'm tired of sleeping on the floor and hanging out with the college kids in the dorm. He's like, go ask those Marine Products girls if they'll have dinner with us tonight. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I went over, and Courtney and this other tall blonde girl, I don't remember her name. I was like, hey, would you guys want to have dinner with us tonight? Me and my tall friend over there. And they were like, sure. But it ended up turning into a big like industry thing. Everyone was like, oh, Doyle and Pat are going out for dinner. Like, we'll come. And then it ended up being like 30 people went out to dinner or whatever. But like Pat, it was like Pat and Courtney and me and like the Amazon blonde girl. And like all I saw was the back of Pat's head, like that whole dinner. And then I was like talking with the blonde girl who was just talking about her ex-boyfriend and how they just broke up and blah, blah, blah. And Pat was doing well, and I was not in that situation. But anyway, it was great. And yeah, the Utah Boat Show was a great thing. But when I was there, I don't think it was that year. It was one of the later years. My dream girl reached out to me, and we had our deal to get married, find each other and get married when we were 30. I think we were maybe 28, 29.
Close enough.
Yeah. She kind of reached out to me, and it was an email, and she just said, you know, kind of, are you happy? And I think that I was, but not like relationship wise.
Not fulfilled in that sense.
Yeah. But I knew from that email that she wasn't. And I found out later a bunch of stuff. She was in kind of a bad relationship. So I was just like, you know, my approach to everything. I was just like, fuck it, fuck all that shit. You know, come down here, come down to Florida. Fuck everything that's, you know, pissing you off. Come down, and I'll take you on a road trip or whatever. So she was like, okay, flew to Fort Myers, and we got in the car and drove to Key West and just did a big thing and caught back up. And it'd been a while. It's been a few years since that Wakestock, where I almost few more pro models later, and traveling around, and a few more relationships for me and everything. But we were talking about it, hit it off, and it's always just so easy, right? It's dream girl shit. And I think that love, it kept me out of a lot of dark places. I think falling in love young is awesome, because traveling through the Philippines and Thailand and all those places, and going to CWC, but being in Manila before you go there, because I got on the invite list. There was 15 riders that when CWC opened, I got one. I think Kevin Henshaw dropped out or something like that, and I was like, Lindbergh's like, dude, you're in. So I like snuck in the side door of that mission, but it was like 10 days, everything paid, your flight paid, your everything paid.
Yeah.
And that's when I really fell in love with the cable. But there was a lot of dark alleyways in those places that I just had no desire to walk
You
down.
mean like partying or?
I think maybe more like on the sexual side of things, where I was just like, and I think that like I had this idea of what love was, and it was like just kind of this pure thing in my mind, and I think that all that stuff appealed a lot less to me, and I didn't, and I think to myself that maybe if I didn't have that love like in my heart all those years, that maybe I would have been a little more curious of what's down that dark hallway, what's down that dark path. Maybe I would have, gone to 4 floors of horrors in fucking Thailand, maybe that would have been appealing, but it completely was not appealing to me. And Randall was very much like that as well. When we were traveling, I remember we were on the start dock at Raffles Marina in Singapore, and we were headed to Thailand. And there was this old Texas businessman with a big old Texas mustache, and he overheard that we're going to Thailand. And so he like, it was Randall and I standing there, and it was arguably the worst 2 guys for him to be like talking at this conversation. Cause he was like, oh, you guys are going to Thailand, eh? He's like, you gotta watch out for those lady boys. He's like, I'll tell you how to tell. He's like, the little bump on the back of the skull. Look for that, Adam's apple. And he's like, and this is the tried and true Texas most easiest way to tell. He's like, all the absolute hottest ones are guys. So this is this, and then he goes on to this. He's the one that's talking about 4 floors of horrors and like all this crazy like what you can do in there, and like he's like, well, this is what I like to do. This is a statement that stuck with me forever, even to this day. He's just talking about. He's like, I like to crank up the AC and get like 6 of those little whores, and I'll climb on you like little blankets and blah blah blah.
What
like,
the fuck?
Yeah, like order any drug you want, anything you want, blah blah. The whole time it's all room service. Get to your room. He's like, you lose an entire month in there, and then he's like, and I never forget this at the end. And so he's talking to Randall and
you're like, what the
and
fuck?
we're just like obviously like we have no interest in anything that like we're not gonna do any of that shit. But like this guy's just like on a tear talking to us because he heard we're going to Thailand, and he ends all that spiel, that big spiel of this and that. He's like, and he ends it with, "It's the type of place that'll make you never happy again for the rest of your life. It's the type of place that'll make you never happy again for the rest of your life." And that like hit me, where it's like, maybe I don't want to experience everything, maybe some experiences will taint you for the rest of your life to the point where you now lose the ability to be happy in the regular. And I mean the regular being like married with a family, and the slowness and the hardness of that in itself, because it's not easy, the day to day, it's not easy. It's not hard. And if you're chasing this high or whatever that you used to have, I think it's a bit like drugs, right? Where it's like, there's certain drugs that maybe once you try, like, is a sunny day, does it feel as good? Does a flower smell as nice? Like once you've overloaded your senses to the point where they blow out, it like now you're like, you've just ruined your ability to like find happiness in
no going back
in the random things, like your child getting married, like you're just like some lump in the corner that's like, like I think about like that kind of stuff, and it's like I'm glad I didn't go down some of those dark hallways, and I think that a lot of it came from having that light, in my heart all those years, and knowing what love is and what it feels like, and that's cooler than any sort of fleeting lustful moment.
So you got back with, what did you want to say her name? What was her name?
Tara.
Okay. I feel like you didn't say her name this whole time. I didn't know if you didn't want to. You said Dream Girl the whole time. And I was like, I don't know. Should I ask her name? So, okay. So you go back to Canada, though, with her.
No, actually, she came.
She came here.
Yeah. So she came and we did that. And then she had to go home and sort out her whole life. And my middle brother is an exceptionally burly man, and I was here. I couldn't go and help her out of that life that she was in, but my brother went, and I don't think anyone could have handled it any better than he did, because there's no sidestepping him. He went and got her out of that situation with no problems at all. So that was great. And I definitely always owe him for that. But yeah, and then I stayed. It was almost another year where I was riding and back and forth, and she came down and she would fly in. She flew in for a Texas tour stop, and then she ended up coming in and staying 3 months with me at the end. And I left the projects and moved to Fort Myers because Gator had a new warehouse there, and the Revolution Cable Park was like Gator affiliated, so we could ride for free there. And it was great. I lived with Mark Weichel, who he made the Wakeskate Life magazine, and he was a pro rider for Gator boards. And there was a good Gator scene there. Arian, our photographer, and he did all of our layouts, and he was like one of the main guys at Gator boards. He lived right in that complex as well. It was a kind of a gated complex with a private little lake called the Vistas, and they were just Arian and Mark, and there was the Engel brothers. It was just cool. It was a cool scene, and with the Revolution Cable Park when it opened, it was great too, and that was all a great scene. But for the last 3 months that I was going to be here, I went back to the projects, and at that time they had taken over everything in the house, and it was no longer in the trailer. Like they owned it all, pushed everyone out. Projects grew up, took it all out, and even like the master bedroom in the house was now like the Byerly suite, and it had like custom Byerly logoed carpet like on the ground. Shit. Yeah, like it was sick, and had a big stand up shower, and the master bedroom in that house was sick, and it was like the camp room where it's like the Byerly suite. It's like do you want to come to camp and you get a room, or you can like buy the Byerly suite or whatever. Anyway, so Pat gave me and Tara the Byerly suite for a bit, not for the whole 3 months, but we were in there, and I felt like it was awesome. And she got to like live with me in like kind of the peak of my career, and live the life a little bit with me and watch me ride. And she got good at filming. I have a bunch of footage that she filmed on rails that I could put out too, like some buried footage. But it was cool to do that before we were going to go home. It was like, I feel like what Ronnie Mullen was talking about when his parents told him he couldn't be a skateboarder anymore, and he was going to his last tournament, and he was going to quit after that, and his parents were making him quit, and then he was going to take the trophies and the skateboard, and he was going to take them home and cherish them forever, kind of thing. And I like that kind of concept stuck with me too, where it was like, I'm retiring, and I want to like take these things home, my boards and my shoes and some of the magazine stuff, and I want to take that home and just have those to cherish that time forever, kind of thing. And the fact that she could come and be a part of the end of that career was great, and see me kind of at my peak and understand everything that was going on.
See it firsthand, everything.
Be part of that world, because she'd come down periodically throughout the years, single, when I was single and I'm single kind of thing. There was a few times, but yeah, that was kind of like the peak in the end, and it was great. And I went on a trip. I had to go. There was an SBC trip, I think it's in this magazine, where we went to the Cayman Islands. Ricky G and the editor of the time, we went, and I bought her ticket, and she came with us, and she got to be on like a photo shoot on a trip to the Caymans and everything. And then the Stoked Ink guys in the Philippines, they were like stoked on Ricky, so they were like, can you get Ricky to come? Because I was dealing with the Stoked Ink guys, because they were Gator and UGP dealers. So he's like, could you get Ricky to come? And I was like, okay, I can try. So I talked to Ricky, and I was like, these guys really want you to come and do this trip. And they flew us first class out there and everything. And they were, because they were fans of Ricky from when they were kind of young or whatever. So they were just like starstruck with Ricky Tara couldn't come on that trip. So she actually invited one of her friends down and they went on a little cruise while we were away for that. But it was good times and it was a good way to say goodbye. And Pat was super cool and he was trying to do everything to get me to stay. But I was like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting. I was like, I gotta go see about this girl. I was locked in because like I'd been a nomad long enough. I wanted to go and I wanted to buy a house and I wanted to start a family and I knew I wanted to do that around my family. I wanted to be where my parents are and my brothers are and that was going to be back in Canada because trust me, like when I got back and like a lot of my high school friends and stuff were like, what the hell? What are you doing back here? Like who leaves Florida? Who leaves Florida to come back to the winter or whatever, right? But no, I was in love, but I had been in love for a long time. So.
Okay, so you did the damn thing, the Good Will Hunting thing, but I think it's kind of cool that you essentially built like one of the sickest backyard wake parks. I feel like we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, looking at it, it's got kink rails. Like, it's legit. It's, like, in the middle of the woods where it's, like, I feel like it never gets rough there. It's never windy. Like,
yeah, and it's weird how that came out because when we bought that house, it's about 3 acres, this property that my wife and I bought. And it's kind of like an 1.5 acre square with like a little bottleneck path into another 1.5 acre square, kind of diagonal checkerboarded behind the neighbors there. So and that back part was kind of when all these lots got chopped up, it was kind of left in the woods there and it got attached weirdly to the property we bought, but it's kind of a swampy forest. So I never thought anything of it. And there's actually a beaver pond and stuff back further that I like dreamed about doing a wake skate thing at, before this whole pond thing came up. And it came up because I didn't buy this property and thought that that's what was going to happen there. I bought this property because it was a bit of property. It was close to my hometown and it was cheap. But I was like, I didn't have any clue on what it cost to dig a pond. I was like, I thought hundreds of thousands of dollars, not anything within my realm of being able to afford on a electrical apprentice's salary. But my brother, who has a farm in Peterborough, a town down the way, he's got a bunch of farm boyfriends. I remember I was just talking to him randomly about it one day, and he's like, what? He's like, a pond that size, which is roughly about maybe 100 by 280
feet.
So it's almost a football field.
Yeah.
He's like, what, a pond that size? And he's like, how deep? And I was like, I don't know, like 10 feet, like get past, because I looked in kind of like you gotta go past 8 feet so that you don't get the bottom growth. So he's like, what? He's like, some of the boys from Peterborough bring up their excavator, they dig you that pond for 10 grand. So I heard this number, 10 grand. And I was just like, what? 10? I was like, that's an actually feasible number. And so then I was like, I was crazy guy in the woods immediately after hearing that number. I was like hunting down all my property markers and then marking them. And then I was like string lining through the forest, the shape of the pond. And I was pacing everything out and marking everything out. And at first I was just like, I'm going to cut this all down to, make room for this pond. And worst case scenario, I get a field and a lot of firewood, if I can't. So, and also I always kind of thought someone would stop me. Someone would, so I was always, the whole time I was expecting someone to come and try to stop me. And I was ready. I was so ready. I had all these conversations prepared. So I knew both neighbors that I'm clear cutting the woods in their backyard. Obviously, I was going to have those conversations. Yeah. So the first guy comes through and he's like, oh, what are you doing back here? And I was ready for this. I knew both of them fed the deer. So I was like, oh, I'm putting a pond in. It's going to be a freshwater source. It's going to clean up this rotty, swampy area. It's going to be great for the deer. And I was like, I was ready for this conversation. He's like, but I think he was just like, oh, like, I think he was just happy that I wasn't saying I'm putting condos in.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, so he heard it was a pond and he was like, oh, that's great. So then he was like, oh, that's great. And then the other neighbor, the same thing, same conversation. And then met with, oh, that's great. It's a pond. That's, not a giant development. That's great. But that was pretty much it. No one else tried to stop me. And I just, I clear cut and then I get it done. It took me about a year. It's just me and a chainsaw, to cut it. And then I cut it all up in the logs and then I borrowed my buddy's 4-wheeler and I pulled the log. 'Cause it was a swamp. So it was like a bog. Like I couldn't even have a trailer. I was making like log roads and then like pulling out the logs with the 4-wheeler. I have this footage too that I could do a post of that. I showed my boys it and they were both standing there like, holy crap, that was a lot of way. It's like one run. So that's how you get 3 logs out, but anyway, so I got it all cleared in about a year and I'm just doing this in a part-time while I'm working as a full-time electrical apprentice. And then I start actually shopping this around, trying to find this $10,000 mark, which then I start to realize that might not actually be a thing. Cause the first few excavator companies I talked to, they're like, how much do you think this is going to cost? 10 grand. They were like, and about the 10 grand number. Yeah. And then this company came, Robinson Haulage. They're a huge outfit in our area. They do a ton of the highway stuff, the massive outfit, tons of dump trucks and excavators and lots of guys that need to be kept busy. And he came out and was like, and I didn't give him the number. I stopped doing the $10,000 number because I was just getting scrunchy faces from. So I was just kind of like, whatever you think, whatever you think. And so he's like, okay. Goes back and a couple of days later he sends me a fully written up thing with everything we talked about, installing the culverts, pulling the earth out, making the pathway with it. And it was like $5,800 plus tax. And I was like, and I was waiting on another quote and I was like, okay, awesome. And then a day went by where I'm waiting on that quote and I'm like, what am I doing? I called him that. I was like, yes, 100%, let's do it. And it was like something like $6,500 taxes in or whatever. Yeah. And the deal was $2,000 to start and then the rest upon completion. So I remember it showed up in February, dead winter, like to dig it. And the whole first day, all he did was stump the whole thing, push it all to the sides. And then it was all stumped after the first day. And then I remember going to work and then coming back. And he had maybe a quarter of the pond dug, like in that first day. And I remember coming up with a bank and looking down it. I know exactly what I was looking at. Because for all I know, it could have been 3 feet in bedrock.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was under the ground. It was all a gamble. Everything was up to this point was done on.
Well, and you were all looking for Mother Earth to stop you at this point.
Yeah.
Or Mother Nature.
It was all done on the hope, of all this. But I walked over the edge of the bank and I looked down. I knew exactly what I was looking at. It was pure clay. The whole thing was pure clay. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, it's clay. He's like, yeah. I was like, that's fucking awesome. He's like, yeah, for you. He's like, not for me. So the machine operator, they were expecting it to be sand and they were expecting to be out of there in 2 weeks, done and gone in 2 weeks. One guy and Clay ended up spinning that for them. And it ended up being almost over 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, of battling. And they dug half the pond to begin with. And then he's like, I got to get my guy out of here. And he's like slop and sinking. And like, it's a bad area for a machine to be in.
Yeah.
And it's getting worse the more he tries to find places to put clay. And he pulls out. He's got to get back to his jobs that actually pay him money. And we're left with half of the pond dug and clay kind of mounds everywhere. But it looks like chocolate milk. And my wife was looking at it. I'm like, and I know what it's going to look like. I'm like, just you wait. I'm like, it's going to look teal. It's going to be like the tropics. You're going to be swimming in there. And she's like, I'll never swim in there ever. And I was like, no. I was like, day one, I'm swimming. And it filled like in like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Right to the top because it was all underground springs. It just saturated and right to the top. And my neighbors were stoked. My one guy came out and he was like, dude, I've unplugged my sub pump. It's like dry. Like, I love what you're doing back here. It's great. Like, the neighbors were stoked. But then trying to get them to come back, because at this point I've only paid $2,000. And so one of the things was that he would smooth a path around the outside with the bulldozer. So now his good guy was gone and he was putting old crappy bulldozers on my property and then getting his like C or D squad guys to go there. And I remember I'd go to work and I'd come back and the bulldozer had driven like 20 feet and then sank in the clay and the guy just got out of it, got in his truck and went home. And then it was just like stuck. And then they bring in another bulldozer to pull that bulldozer out. And I think it went on like that for a while where it was like nothing was getting done, but he was such a good guy that he was just like being true to everything that he said. And so many other companies I think would have just pulled out and left and cut their losses. But he's Robinson College, like I owe them so much because they stuck to their word and pulled through. And then like it got to the point where, but now the pond's full too. It's half dug, but it's full. So he basically came to me and was like, he's like, listen, I'm like 3 times my quote into this job. And give me another $2,000 of the $6,500, not more.
Yeah. Just pay me now.
Pay me a little bit more of the money, and then we'll come in here and we'll get it done quick. And I was thinking, in my head, nah, this guy's just wants to pull another $2,000 and then he's gonna dip. But in my head, I was like, but then I have a $4,000 half pond, which is pretty good. Or
$2,000.
I get it all, or I gamble, and the $2,000 is gambling to get it all. Yeah. And I was like, immediately I cut the check and I was like, there you go, And so like it was like the next day, his brother shows up, which is his best machine operator, with an excavator 3 times the size of the one that he used to dig it, and he dug the whole second half of the pond in like 2 days. But like, he's not getting stuck. He's stuck, but he's calling the company, and then a dump truck shows up with 2 blast mats in the back, like linked together tires, drags the blast mats out there, lays it down, drives up on it, and starts digging. Because in clay, when you're digging with an excavator, you're always sinking. And you can scoop so many scoops, and then you got to get yourself unstuck and reset, and the blast mat helps them do that. So that's the difference between like the A team and like the D team. Yeah. So he dug this whole thing, and I remember they were family friends with the people through the property. There was a wedding, and I ran into Rusty was his name, and he was at this wedding. He was all drunk, and I went through the woods, and I saw him through the crowd, and I went up and I was like, Rusty, I fucking love you. He had no idea who I was. And I was like, Rusty, I fucking love you. And he was like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah. I was like, you dug my pond right there through the woods. And his whole face went like stone solid. He's like, that fucking pond. Because like it was full. So the other guy was digging and piling somewhat dry clay where he was pulling up soaking wet, sloppy piles of clay and piling it and trying to work it and move it. And it was a nightmare. But he came out and like topping a cake, icinged like a whole road, installed my culvert, all with wet clay. And then it was weeks and weeks before you could even walk on it. But he did that all on his way out, and such a good machine operator, and those guys were so wicked. And I really truly believe that anyone else, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But they did it. And then it turns out I ended up building my setup across the back. I didn't even need the part of it. But
we got a nice place to swim in and stuff.
Yeah. So then over the years, that was done, and I bought my own little excavator to do and I planted a bunch of spruce trees, and I put in a beach. I brought a bunch of sand, 60 tons of sand back, because it was like dug by an excavator, right? So it's straight down everywhere. And I dug this part back, and I installed this beach, so there's a nice place in and out. And then I did that because I wanted a place for the boys to play while I built the bunkhouse. And I wanted the bunkhouse to build, and I wanted to be super tall because I wanted the winch point to be exceptionally high, so that my pull point was always going to be going up.
Yeah.
So then took me a few years, and then in this time I tore down our garage and built a new garage with an apartment above it. And I remember working on the garage, and it was like 2 years to do the garage. And I'm like, the pond is dug and I want to do the rails and all the other stuff, but I have to do this apartment because it's going to be like an income, which then became a place for my wife's mom to live. But I remember being in there and being like resentful of all the stuff I'm doing because like I want to be working on the rails, and maybe by the time I'm done building this apartment, I'm not going to be good enough to do the tricks that I want. Cause I knew exactly, I had the pond dug and the lower part filling and using it for like 6 or 7 years before I made the upper part and the bigger rails. And I knew the exact rails I wanted to build, and I knew the exact tricks I wanted on each rail. Yeah. And I was thinking this whole time I'm doing these other things that I'm going to be too old. I'm not going to be able to do the tricks I want. And that kink rail is it's kind of based on the Thailand rail from Planet Wakeboard from Transgression that I start my section with crashing on, where it has an up ramp, but then it's flat, down, flat, down, flat. It's the flat down. It's that part of it, but properly done with proper angles and mellow. And so it was kind of like, because that rail was like a bet. Like we were there, the whole Gator board team's at your place. He built this amazing rail, but it was like no one was hitting it. He's like, why is no one hitting my rail? And I was like, because you built it wrong. The angles are wrong. And on top of that, he sees the cable parks with white tops. And so he thought he just put plywood on and then painted it white. So we're trying to slide white paint on plywood. It was terrible. It didn't slide at all. Well, I mean, it did, but it slid like a concrete wall or something.
Yeah, not good.
So I said to him, I was like, and it was kind of turned into like a thing where it's like, he's like, all you guys. I was like, dude, he's like, no, you're just scared. You guys are just scared to hit. I was like, dude, you have like the Gator board's professional team here, and like Lidberg and me from the projects, like we're rail riders. Like, it's not that we're scared.
You fucked up.
You built the angles. I hated to tell them that because they were metal structure rails with like bamboo inlays and has logos in them. It was a dope build. Just wrong angles. Again, another wrong angle situation. And then I was like, and we were drinking, and it was like 11:30 at night. And I was like, fine. I just got tired of him being like this and that. I was like, fine, I'll hit it. But your guy, and they had hive winches. I don't know if you remember them. They had 2 hive winches, which were these Cadillacs of gas-powered winches back then. They were so sick. They were big, and they were up in this tower. And I was like, you got to tell your boy there to pull me at 15 miles an hour. And he's like, done. We can do that. He was just stoked. He just wanted to see someone freaking hit his rails. He had just finished building it all, right? And he had no one around him that was good enough to do it. So he's like, done. Let's do it. He gets these lights out. Boom, puts these lights up. It's happening right now. 11:30 at night. We've been drinking his like nut moonshine like all night to get in this conversation to where it is. And I'm like I'm like, okay, let's do this thing. And I'm like alling on. I'm sticking like. And then, so the first one, I'm just like ollie on it. I'm like, and then like slide across the whole thing on my body. And it's the start of my transgression session is me just like slamming on this rail and bodying. I don't even think I checked the water. There was like, he had like jammed bamboo in as supports, and there was like bamboo poles sticking out like this. And I didn't even see any of that. And, I get locked in. Like I don't see anyone. Everyone's there. You know, Randall, Wes, all the riders, Ryan Lee, the Singapore distributor for Gator boards. He's all there. Gator, Ron, Letchworth, everyone's there. Everyone's standing there, you know, like the lights are going like, and there was no one there as far as I'm concerned. There's just me and the rail now, and I'm locked in, and there's no like, oh, I'm not going to do this now. There's only landing it. There's only figuring out what I have to do to land this rail.
Yeah, get the
the speed, I think the speed is right. I just have to get on what it feels like to slide this whole thing. And so I don't know, it's like 10 or so tries before I get it. And I get a little bit more each time, a little bit further each time, a little bit further until I stick one. And then it was just this big eruption. And later on, Randall did this write-up that it was kind of a question that Ron was putting out to all of us, all these different questions, and the one question was what part stands out to you in transgression? Because obviously everyone else was writing Randall's section because his part was insane and he spent all year and really put himself into it. But he chose to not talk about section, but talk about tricks. And one of the things he talked about was me hitting that rail and like the look in my eyes and like the focus that I had and to have a guy like that who was this guy that I was looking at like that when I was a kid that made me want to be in the industry, that then is now looking at me that same way, like how he talked about how like he thinks about how I was in that moment when he's struggling with something or wants to quit on something. And that was massive. I remember like reading that and being like I can't believe he wrote that. I can't believe
massive full circle moment on that.
I can't believe he even thought that, let alone wrote it.
100%.
So yeah, a massive full circle moment for sure. And
that's sick. So
got mad off topic there.
It was related though with the rail and the one you built in the backyard.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's the shape of that rail.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was a lot of years and a lot of like wondering if I was going to get it done. But it was for more than just riding. I did it because I had sons, and maybe I would have done it if I had daughters too, but 100% because I had sons. And I was like, I need a place that I can be gnarly in front of my boys because I want them to be gnarly. Like I don't want to raise fluffy boys. So I need an outlet that I feel comfortable getting gnarly in so that I can show them what getting gnarly is, and I can show them getting beaten and getting up and getting beaten and getting up in a capacity that I'll be able to handle. And my body is conditioned to handle those beatings, and the water is pretty friendly in the beating category compared to asphalt and ice. So I built it because like I wanted a place to ride that, because the boat etiquette's not there in Muskoka like it is in Florida. Like you go out and try to ride on the waterways in and around Muskoka and people are just doing tube donuts beside you, like waving to you like, hey, we're all riding together, we're all having a good time. They're completely oblivious to the fact that you want calm water. And the fact that I cut it into a completely mature forest, it's a massively high tree line. It can be the most blown out day on the water where you can't ride at all, but the pond is always calm.
Yeah.
And it's great. And beyond that, it's like the boys growing up catching frogs and turtles, and now there's little fish in there and stuff. All of that has just led them to like love being in the water, love nature. My son always is saving turtles on the side of the road. If they're a snapper, he takes them to the beaver pond. If they're a painter, he takes them to our pond just to help them off the road. And then whenever there's a painter turtle nest, he sees one put his eggs, he stakes it all out. And it's been a great backyard environment to help the boys. And I'm always like, they would catch frogs from a young age. And then I'd always be like, okay, you can look at him, he can chill for a little bit, but he's got to go get his dinner too. He's got to get home to his family, and he's got stuff to do today too. So don't take up too much of his time because, he's got stuff to do as well. So it's kind of taught them to how to treat, animals nicely.
Yeah,
and,
super important.
And make sure that they get off and back to their lives safely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
So good for that.
We got another Patreon question here. We've been covered a lot here, but before we wrap it up, I want to hit this one from Norby. And I know we talked about shoes a little bit, but he wants to know what shoes did you first skate with, and walk us through the evolution of your actual shoe line. I used to love those things back in the day.
Oh man.
So start with that, Nice. We covered that, but
so the first shoe I ever wake skated, and I think it was one of my buddy Joel Adair's old shoes. It was like a size 12. I'm a size 9, so it was a 3 sizes too big shoe. And that photo in the first magazine I ever got, I'm wearing with the 1-footer. I'm riding those massive shoes. And then, from there I signed with Reef. I signed with Etnies, and I was stoked because I've always been a massive Etnies fan. And then I was like feeling like blinging on the water. That covers those white. Those are Mike Valley pro models on that cover. And then there's the other shot. I had the Valley 2s. They're red and black. So those red and black Mike Valley 2. So this is kind of funny because those Mike Valleys are blinger white, right? And when I went to make my first shoe, I made blinger whites because I thought they looked so good on the water. But when it came time to do my second shoe, I did a black and red combo because they were like the Valley 2s I had, and I always thought those shoes were sick, the red and black ones. They looked really good on the water, and that's why I did my grip foam on my skate was red that year. So I had a black and red wake skate with black and red
fully
shoes.
Connected,
Yeah. So I went from Etnies, and then I went to Reef, which was great. It was great being on Reef too because I was on the team with Byerly and BT, and we were all rocking Reef together, and it was easy. And I'm size 9, so Bish was great because anytime he's doing an event or doing toe jam or anywhere we were, he had all these shoes. And they were always sample 9. The sample size is size 9.
Yeah.
So
lucky you.
whenever he would be like, dude,
Sample
he's
13
like,
out here.
He's like, Doyle, take these shoes. I don't want to take these shoes home. So I would always get these shoes, and a lot of them, like, they didn't even go to market. They were just like one-off things promoting the Reef line and things that they can do. So I ended up having lots of cool shoes when I was with Reef, not beyond just the wake skate shoes, but it was nice riding a shoe that was designed for wake skating. And then sitting down and getting to do the UGP shoe, I knew I wanted, I liked Circa shoes.
Yeah.
Back in the day. I like a big, bulky,
big puffies.
Skate shoe. Yeah. So I knew that doing my shoe, I didn't want to do a mesh shoe. I wanted it to have like a bulkness to the shoe, but I didn't want that bulkness to like take on water. So I was like requesting, can we do like a foam that doesn't absorb water? So I don't know that this foam quite hit that mark. It does absorb some, but like that was my request, is to have a foam in it that makes it like bulk out and look like more like a skate shoe and less like a mesh shoe, but not take on water. So it's not heavy. And then we did this whole like drainage system that comes down and drains out of these bottom holes, which I gave my brother a pair of these, and he's like, yeah, I use them as my roofing shoes. And, but then it rained and my feet got all wet.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Well,
So, but yeah, it was great. It was great to sit down so this integrated tongue was another thing where.
I noticed that. Yeah.
The laces are pretty much for show, and I would always do them up and then tie the knot underneath here and then snip it off. So there's no like, I didn't like looped laces or anything like that.
Yeah.
So but like largely if these are not on here, it fits the same with the integrated tongue. So it's more like a slip-on shoe, which it was always really great. It fit really nice. And yeah, I never had a problem with them at all. And I noticed something about wearing them now. Like when Daniel and everybody came to ride at my place just recently, I was like, oh, special occasion. I'm going to break out a new pair of shoes, like freshie out of the box. And I broke out, I think the teal and gray ones from the second generation around, not my red and black signature ones, but just the other colorway. And immediately, like as soon as I rode, all the leather just like cracked and started like falling off. And it's like, just because it was in a box for the past 15 years. But I noticed that happened so much more on the second gen than the first gen, which to me is like a testament to like UGP being like, okay, we need to make these cheaper next year because we didn't make a lot of money on them, kind of thing. And that is and this is another veil lifting, I think, moment for companies. So many companies over all of the years, there'd always be these companies coming into Wake that would be like, oh, we're going to come in, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to change the industry, they pump all this money in it, and in 3 years they're gone. Because like that amount of focus is unsustainable. And the companies that are like, budgeting accordingly and following the market and being a Wake company. So that led me to also focus on companies that were not Wake only.
Yeah.
That's what I learned after Kampus as well. Like, don't like try not to ride for companies that are only wake companies, because I want to do tons of promoting and tons of magazine stuff and lots of video stuff. And I want to, be with a company that can afford to reward for that beyond maybe the wake budget that's returning to them. So that's why when I signed with Excel, it was a great company to ride for. And they just had tons of money, and they were always super stoked, and their product was so amazing. Like their clothing that they would send me was so cool and had like hidden zipper pockets and like zip the hood off. Like they weren't just getting clothes and putting their logos on.
They're doing cool shit with it.
Even though they weren't a clothing company, everything, they were very like focused on quality, and they were so good. And they bought that one kickflip off a rail shot. They bought it from him, and they paid to use it, but then they're like, we want this photo. We want to own this photo. So they paid him like a couple grand to buy the rights to it.
Yeah.
And we were like, dude, like it was like the most money he ever got for a picture. And like, it was cool to have a company like not try to lowball him, like literally paid him a good amount of money to buy the rights to it. And then they ran a national ad campaign with that photo. And it went everywhere. They did because it was for the Mac vest. This vest, where they wanted a Coast Guard approved wake vest that was going to fit sleek, and because most of the sleek riding vests are not Coast Guard approved, so that was Excel's mission there, and they wanted to promote it big time, and they used that photo. And I went to Surf Expo that year, and I was like larger than life on the side of the Surf Expo booth, which is like the Excel surf booth. And, so I was like, that was like a crazy moment.
Big dog shit.
Yeah. But yeah, working on the shoes, UGP was a company that came from BMX. So they were another company. And when I signed with them, they got bought out by a parent company of like Giorgio Armani Blue. Like they had a big budget coming in, and it was my biggest signing, because I had to give up Reef when I signed with UGP, which I didn't like that idea. And Reef was one of my higher paying sponsors. So I said I'll sign with you for clothing, and we'll do this shoe brand, but you got to double what you're saying here. And, cause you're taking a sponsor away from me for me to do this. So, but they said yes.
Should have said triple.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hit him with that quad.
Well, at the end of the 3 years, it was a see you later kind of situation, which happens.
It happens.
It's like they put a ton of money out, and I was just lucky to catch that wave, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people caught a lot of different waves, and that was just one of the waves I caught.
That's the name of the game, though, right?
Yeah. But like you were saying about signature boats, like how many signature wake skate shoes are there out there? It was pretty much
short list.
Pretty much just Byerly, and I'm pretty sure. And I have some magazine stuff where it's like our shoes beside each other and stuff, and I always thought that was kind of cool.
Super epic.
Yeah.
Dang.
So
well,
it worked out.
I mean, we've covered a lot of shit here. Is there anybody you want to thank before we wrap this up? Kind of ran the gamut on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to thank Pat Panakos. Like I met him, and all of this happened, and I think that there's a lot of people out there. I know there's a lot of people out there that can say that exact same thing, and I think the industry owes him a lot, because he has done so much, more than people I think even realize, for the industry. And he's just such a good dude too. Like he's a guy that's like Scott, where he's not trying to take it all for himself. He
humble.
He's trying to bring everyone along. He's trying to bring the sport and everyone, as many people as they can, along with him. And that's why that was such a good partnership. Like, and those were such two like super good like role model guys to be around, Scott and Pat. So yeah, I'm going to thank Scott as well, just for being a riding partner. It seems weird to say that, like, riding partners with Scott those years, but that's how it was. And we were working on the projects, we were working on stuff, we were building stuff, doing the Toe Jam, and getting put on those early riding lists for Toe Jam, which was basically just like Scott's birthday, and he was like, these are my friends that wake skate, and that's who's coming. It was 10 of us to start.
Yeah.
So to be on those early lists. Like, it was incredible. And, thank BT for just always being styly and making everything look cool and winning everything so that I didn't have to worry about it. Like,
Not everything.
he swept, like when he swept Toe Jam, all three, that was such a sick time. And how he did it, like I remember on the rails, like he knew what Aaron Reed was gonna do, and he went out and did all Aaron Reed's tricks, and then started doing his tricks, so that when it was Aaron's turn to go, and because he went first, and then it was Aaron's turn to go. What do you do? It's like a rap battle. It's like a rap battle when someone raps everything that you were gonna say about them.
The Eminem
And then,
ending scene, 8 Mile.
Exactly. And that's how it was for the rail. And that was such a cool time. And then he won Pro Tour like off of that vibe too. And I remember him being like, I'm tired of getting thirds and seconds. He's like, he was all, and that was never something that I was like into, but he was. And I thank him for taking care of that for the P unit crew and the wake skate side of things, is just being the constant competitor and constantly style, making everything look good and make me hold accountable for wanting to make stuff good too.
Yeah.
And then, I thank my wife for sitting on my knee that day and having given me just this love in my heart and this understanding of what true love is all these years, and probably saved me from a lot of dark alleyways. And my mom for being strong enough to take 3 boys out of a situation and give them all a life they probably wouldn't have had otherwise. I think that's pretty amazing. My stepdad, Pat, is great. He never tried to be overbearing or anything like that. Just let you be, and that was great. I appreciated that approach.
Yeah.
To fatherhood, it was good. Mom
and Dad's good one to end it on if you're gonna end it. The list is tough though.
Yeah.
You keep going. You can keep going. I'm not cutting you off, but
that's it. I mean, I feel like I want to thank guys like Andy Oak and Brennan Grange for all the hard yards and time. Like, I didn't even know so much of that stuff. I didn't know that they were doing because I was head in the sand. Like I said, I didn't ride for 5 years and I largely didn't follow anything. And I was just, and I didn't realize. I watched Andy's Grab Matters, and I was blown away by how long he has been pursuing the full-size cable.
Yeah, dude.
So for him to finally have it, and we went there on opening day. It was amazing. I got to meet him and Brennan, and they're just such great core.
Andy's the best,
core guys. Dude. Yeah, that I'm man, I'm so thankful. It was another feeling I felt about Reed and Nick and Andrew and the guys that were wake skating when I left. I just felt like the sport was in such good hands. I got that same vibe from Andy and Brendan. Man, and we're so lucky to have these people be passionate about our sport, because look what they did, and they helped bring up incredible riders. I didn't realize, the boys and I started watching Liam Brearley because he was snowboarding, and when the boys got into snowboarding, we started watching snowboarding, and then it's hey, that guy's Canadian, and then it's hey, that guy's from Gravenhurst. That's our hometown. How is there a guy from Gravenhurst winning worlds? And we didn't even know he had a wake background at all.
Oh, he's cracked on a wakeboard too.
Yeah,
he's so good.
And then I found that all out through just recently, and I think that's crazy that I didn't know all that. And I think all those guys are super cool, and we're very lucky to have them. And the boys and I want to plan way more road trips there. It's only a 3-hour drive for us, and
easy then.
It's mostly back roads and farm country too. No highways or city, so it's not big traffic.
Yeah,
so it's a fun drive. So
Dang,
thank those guys for what they've done for the Canadian water sports over the years, and
having a full size is gonna be
and
a
now
big thing.
Now the full size, congratulations to them, because
kind of like a home base situation. I always
great.
think full sizes are super important. So, and obviously the 2.0s are great too. But all right, well, I want to give a thank you for coming on. I know you came down in the summer in the sunny, hot Florida heat.
Yeah.
Got a kickflip though, so
Yeah.
can't be too upset about that.
No, it was good. I think that there was more than a few doubters in the crowd, but I have my process. I have my process. And
TJ, you gotta give my man some props, dude.
No,
He's got the kick.
He was believing. I was asking George's son. I was like, Colton, what are my odds? What are my odds? And he was like, 0. And I was like, what? No, you got to do better than that. And he was like, oh, no, 50-50. And I was like, okay.
I'll take 50-50.
I literally landed at 2 tries after that. And I was like, Colton, you called it, buddy. Yeah, it was good.
Well, love it. Thank you for coming on. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you guys are interested in supporting what we're doing here, join the Patreon. That means a ton, too. And until next time, see you guys later.
Thank you. Cool.